Good morning, everyone. It's so good to see everybody without masks. You know, it's one thing to see your smiling eyes. It's another thing to see your smiling smile. So, hey, we're grateful that you're here. Today is May 20th, and we're 2/3 of the way through the month already. I don't know where May has gone so quickly, but we welcome you. From the department, would like to welcome Jeff Rasmussen, Dave Harris, Scott Strong, Amber Stubbings, Darren Bird, Shane Stroud, and Chris Holler and Rachel Toker and Susan Zaracarisi will join us, I believe, later as they have some reports, I believe. Paul Gedge, we're so grateful for you and for all your technical support today, allowing us to be able to conduct this meeting both here in Richfield as well as virtually. We're here in Richfield at the DNR building, and grateful that we have this opportunity to be here and meet personally. My name is Bob Murray. I'm the chair of the State Parks Board. And our board members today, I'm so glad to see so many of you here, and we do have a few that have connected virtually. Russ Stedman and Leisha Colthorpe have connected virtually, and we're glad that you've joined us. We also have Corey Cram, Claudia Jarrett, Kevin Christensen, Natalie Randall here live with us here in Richfield. Did I miss anyone? Okay, well, that's a good start to our meeting then, I think. And Wayne Monroe. Wayne, you were hiding over there.
Kind of sneaky.
Wayne's quite the golfer too. If you ever have an opportunity to go golfing with Wayne, it's a lot of fun. All right, hey, to get started, we'll call the meeting to order, and we've already done our introductions. Did the board members have a chance to review the minutes, the meeting minutes from February?
Did you want to do
Or the agenda, rather, the agenda.
I move approval of the agenda.
Okay, we have an approval. Do we have a second on the agenda approval?
Second.
Okay, thank you. We'll move forward with the agenda as it's been written. Now we'll go to the minutes. Sorry, everyone. Everyone's had a chance to look at the minutes from February 18th and provide any comments or changes to Amber. If you have any comments.
Mr. Chair, I always appreciate that Amber puts out those minutes like day after we meet. So we've had a huge opportunity to review those minutes, and I did sent my changes to Amber. They were taken care of, so I move approval.
All right, we have an approval from Claudia Jarrett. Do we have a second?
I would second that. And just another comment, I appreciated just all the links you provided with the different videos and the news clips and the things. It just gives us additional insights and things that are going on around the regions. And anyway, just incredible information you provide. Thank you.
Thank you for your second, Corey. And I guess are we approved, everyone, to say aye if you approve of the minutes as they are?
Aye.
Okay, looks like it's unanimous. Haven't done this for a while, so I'm a little rusty. All right. We'll move on into our board member reports. Let's go ladies first today. Claudia, would you like to give us a quick report on the state parks in your area?
Well, I was able to visit Fremont Indian Museum yesterday, Park and Museum, and that was awesome. Kevin Taylor was the most awesome park ranger I think I've ever met. So passionate. Oh my goodness. We were an hour late getting back to Palisade because he just could not give us enough information, and you could see how much he loved that park and how he really has a passion for it and wants to see it increase. Then we went to Palisade, which is one of our favorites in Stampede, and we were hosted royally by Sean Tripp. We got a Dutch oven, and we played golf. And I want to warn you, Jeff, that Dave Harris probably will be visiting more parks with golf courses after yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
He's found his new passion.
Yeah,
So
his
he
talent.
has.
It's a hidden talent.
Yeah.
We haven't heard that yet, so I'll talk to him about it.
We were actually joking that maybe he wasn't doing park visits. He was doing golf course visits because he's pretty good.
Good. I also had a chance to drive into Yuba, but the Painted Rock side. And that has been developed so nice and it looked so good. There were about 15 camper people in there. I couldn't find the camp host, but I did kind of ride around, went down to the group area, saw the launch pad. What took me back though was the big sign to boaters to beware if you're boating on the water, because it's so low that you may hit stuff in the lake. And we heard that from Sean Tripp, that when the water level goes down, Palisade, he's found anchors and lures and all kinds of stuff. So it's sad that our water that we rely on so heavily in our parks is going down in so many of them, that makes boating a little dangerous, and probably fishing and all of the things that are activities around the water. I'm actually going to Snow Canyon this weekend to Tuacahn, so I'll be right close to Snow Canyon. So I always make a point to go up and see that. And thanks to Jeff, I was connected with Chris Haramoto, and I am going to stay in a yurt first week in June at East Canyon State Park. So
Great.
I am just thrilled that we're going to do that. And he called me right back and got it all fixed up. And so I'm just really, really glad for that. So anyway, that's my report. So just looking forward to a good year at State Parks.
Terrific. Natalie.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to go to Kodachrome. I know it's outside of my region, but beautiful park. It was really full, like lots of campers, like all of the parks that we've seen. Dead Horse, I passed through there and saw the new concessionaire Bighorn, the mountain bike rentals. Really cool outfit that they have there. They've put up a building now. The concessionaire Kenny is actually a friend in Moab, so it was great to talk to him about his experience there, and just so many rentals going out, and crazy with the bike industry, and trying to keep up there. I just wanted to do a shout out just to Chris and his team at Edge of the Cedars. They had Secretary Holland come and visit with the Department of the Interior surrounding the Bears Ears National Monument conversation. And the amount of conversations that I heard back from the governor's office and just from the Department of Interior, so impressed by our state parks and the hospitality that was provided to them when they came through. And so great job for Chris. And then also just with Gooseneck State Park, exciting about the dark sky, and being part of that effort and all the work that went into that. I know there's been years of work that have gone into trying to get that to go through. So I think that's all I have now.
Thank you, Natalie. Alicia, can we go to you next?
Yes, I'm so sad seeing all of you sitting there that I'm not there in person. I've got a meeting this afternoon that I couldn't be away from. So thankful for technology, but sad that finally after so many months we were going to meet together in person and I don't get to be there. But I hope to catch you on the next meeting. Just a little update. I haven't visited any parks out of my area, but I have visited all the parks in my area. So we've got lots of fun summer events coming up that include all of the parks here in our area. We've got our big ATV Jamboree with 700 people registered in a couple of weeks. And so the staff will be helping with that. And we're excited to have State Parks and the OHV program as a sponsor and as a partner in that event. The Fieldhouse Museum is busier than before COVID. And so they're just working like crazy over there and doing all kinds of great stuff and bringing fossils in and using the lab to be able to do some awesome discovery stuff in there. Tomorrow I have a film crew here and we'll be interviewing Steve, even though he says he's not getting on camera, but Steve or a staff member will be part of that production for the Natural History Museum. That will be great. Of course, Red Fleet State Park, I've been waiting for money for years. Jeff and Scott will tell you that. I'm just waiting for the governor to give us another park that's going to take the money. But, you know, I'm crossing my fingers that it's going to happen. So that'll be awesome. They'll begin a remodel process here in a couple months, and it needs it. It's a step back into the 70s, and while that's cool, it does have some some things that definitely need to be fixed as far as campgrounds and bathrooms and all those kind of things. So it'll be nice for that to happen. And then Steinecker, it's there. It definitely has water issues because of the dam remodel. They did get a new bathroom with showers for camping, and hopefully the water will start rising a little bit, but there's not a whole lot of snow left on our mountains in this area. So we'll have to see what happens there. I hope that they can still have some good fishing and a little bit of boating for at least a couple of months and be able to get people back into that park after struggling with water for a few years. And then Starvation, it's busy. It's booked for the summer. I guess we can call that Fred Hayes State Park and not Starvation. But they have a beautiful area, and they do have water. Their water is I guess you could say at capacity, but it'll drop as well during the summer. But they have a lot more water than we have over here in Uinta County. So that's kind of my report, and hope to get out and visit some more parks this summer, heading to St. George a couple times for some basketball tournaments. So hope to get down there and visit Snow Canyon and just, get around the state.
Terrific. Thank you, Alicia. Kevin, let's go to you.
Yeah, it's great to be here today. I appreciate the board board packets we get all the time that have lots of good information in it. So I am very excited about Palisade and the improvements, the expansion that's going to go on there shortly with the campground expansion. It's definitely needed. It's a busy park all the time, and that's a good thing. I am a little worried about all the water level at all our parks, especially Yuba. That's where I like to boat, and so concerned about that.
Yeah.
But Palisade had a fishing tournament this last month, a few weeks ago, and they had 150 people there. So that turned out fairly good. So Palisade is really good to work with. Sean is an awesome park host, and I just have to give a thumbs up to him. And all the employees of the state parks everywhere are great. So I look forward to getting out to more state parks this summer. And I hope we can have a good visitation in all the parks, even the ones that might have water issues. But
Wonderful. Thank you, Kevin. Corey.
Sure. I guess the term that I keep hearing, and I think a theme that we talk about, is the new normal. And that's kind of what comes to mind when I think about some of the things that I'm seeing around is new normal is maybe water conditions, and where we're at now is, in decades past, we had a lot of water and we could count on it. And now we're seeing that maybe what we're seeing now is what we need to get used to, is tougher conditions and probably more extremes in drought and in floods and things, and having to deal with that. In Utah, 95% of our water supply comes from snow, from our snowpack. And this year in southern Utah, this is the worst year we have in historical record for our water conditions, for our snow melt, and for river conditions we anticipate. We're seeing really, really bad conditions. It's nice that we have great relations with some of our other agencies, with wildlife resources in the regional office, to coordinate with fishing conditions. And we don't anticipate reservoir conditions that will be so bad that it will affect fisheries. At Gunlock, we're not going to have, there's no threat of any overflow and the falls taking place. So the new normal is probably not to have that, but John Allred kind of got used to dealing with the falls for a few years, and that was nice for him to have opportunities to bring a lot of people there, but having to deal with the new normal. And the new normal is lots of people from out of state finding us. And, COVID was crazy, but the new normal is now we have more people, and people in our parks are dealing with that really well. So in our reservoir conditions across the state, is we're gonna have tough conditions most of the place. Brian Steed, our executive director from the Natural Resources, was down at a water conference past couple of days, and he spoke, and he said he was at a conference and it was focusing on transportation. And at the end, they asked for his comments, and he says, well, transportation is nothing if you don't have water. And you look around at all these other issues that we face, and if we don't have water, it's nothing. And you look at growing communities and challenges you face, and you have a lot of issues to deal with. But if you don't have water, you have one issue. And, you know, when you get into tough conditions, you really kind of see how that affects us. Down in our area, I've really appreciated our radio ads that we have, and our local Candace is on those radio ads with a big focus on safety, with boating safety, with PFDs, and first aid kits, and being prepared, and just using some common sense. Early on in the season, we have extremely cold water conditions, but the sun shines, and so people get out there and they get on their paddle boards, and then they fall off, and then the hypothermia sets in. And anyway, some scary conditions, and I appreciate the effort to try to get word out and help people understand that they need to be better prepared and to follow some rules and some guidance, and that's been really good. The new normal is I appreciate the efforts of leadership in the division with maintaining relations with the legislature and the funds that we have for some park improvements, and putting money into maintaining and improving capital facilities, and see that as the new normal, is maintaining an emphasis on that to carry us into the future, not just into the present. And hope that's the case. I've enjoyed talking with people behind the scenes, and friends and neighbors and visitors to our area who recognize that Zion National Park is an incredible place, but it's a zoo anymore. But I hear people talking about Snow Canyon and visiting that, and it's just this little hidden gem that's like the newly found, or it used to be the unfound Zion. But now I'm hearing people, they know about Snow Canyon, they're loving it and enjoying it. And I'm excited about that. And it has so much potential. And Kristen's doing a great job there. I'm excited for that. Anyway, I just enjoy our park managers that we have down there. And, you know, we have some people who've been in place for a few years now, and they're just growing into their positions really well and doing good things. I was at Coral Pink here a while back and enjoyed my time there. I haven't found Sasquatch, but I need to get out here and find him. If you haven't taken the time there, you need to get out and find him. But anyway, just appreciate everything that's going on, and the efforts of our managers and all of our staff, and the positive attitudes to deal with the new normal that's out there. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Terrific. Thank you. Russ Stedman. How are you?
Hey there, can you hear me?
Yes. Can you go next
Okay.
for us?
I'd love to. I'm sorry I'm not there. I actually have a daughter that lives in Richfield, and my plan was to come and spend the night with her. And I had a Tooele County board meeting last night that went to the late hours, so I didn't want to get up too early this morning. But it's nice to see your faces through technology. I was able to go down to Corey's area about a month ago and spend a week at Sand Hollow. And I haven't been to Sand Hollow for quite some time. And it was obviously, there was a lot of people there. There's a lot of OHV people. There was quite a few boats on the lake. And so it's just amazing to me. I'm going to, mimic what everyone else has said, but these state parks that we have are so well run. It's so fun to see the places and see the opportunities. And of course, my background is in the motorized, so I'm kind of dialed into that side of the things. And we're seeing more and more people go out and use the lands. And it's good. We've gained a lot of new people in the world of recreation over the last year. COVID created a perfect storm, if you will, for people to go and do outside stuff. And I'm reiterating what everyone else said, but it's nice to see that. And I had a great time at Sand Hollow. I'll go back again. We're taking a group here in the next little while. We're taking a youth group up to This Is the Place, and I'm excited to see the new visitor center there. I got to see it through on the screen here a month ago, and now I'm really excited to go see it in real life. And I'm going to go to Antelope Island as soon as the gnats are gone. The gnats right now are absolutely ridiculous. I heard a story of why the gnats are so bad, and it's actually due to the receding of the Great Salt Lake. The gnats actually put their eggs in the sand. I didn't know that. And because we have a lot more sand around the Great Salt Lake, we hence have a lot more gnats. That's what the mosquito abatement district told me anyway. But I'm going to go there as soon as the gnats are away. It's nice to be in a state that there's so many outdoor opportunities, and I appreciate all the work that the staff does. I plan on, I attended the RTP grant funding last night via Zoom, and I just really appreciate the work that Chris and his staff does. I'm going to watch the non-motorized next week to see how that goes as well. But I just want to shout out to Chris and his group. That staff does wonderful work, and we need to listen to their recommendations whenever we can. That's all I have.
Thank you, Russ. That's awesome. Let's see, who do I miss? I think I got everybody
For yourself.
except for myself. I did fail to mention that that Doug Thompson and Brent Boswell, who are board members, will not be joining us today. Maybe Brent will be coming
Brent
in.
did text me and say he's here in Richfield.
Oh,
he
okay.
should be
So
walking in soon.
Brent will be coming a little bit later, but we excuse Doug Thompson today. You know, every time I go to a state park, I just get excited, and I think, wow, look at what I've missed out on. I had the opportunity, like Claudia, to go to the Fremont Indian State Park yesterday, and what a great resource! What a wonderful park that is. And Kevin Taylor was just awesome, as you said. I have never been in a pit house before. And I was able to go down into the underground pit house and also the one that they erected above ground, which was such a labor of love. I mean, they spent $10,000 to build this beautiful pit house that people are renting, and it'll actually host 8 people. And it is the coolest. And I'm just thinking, how come I have never been here and taken advantage of this neat opportunity to see all these petroglyphs and all the history that's around this wonderful state park? Anyway, every park I go to, I get thrilled. I actually had a chance to drive through Yuba yesterday too. And I'm anxious to get on that zip line and do that zip line. If the water is low, maybe the zip line won't be even higher and more exciting. And then Palisade yesterday was just really awesome. Had a chance to golf with some amazing people, Claudia and Dave and Wayne. We just had a blast. What a wonderful state park that is. And I know that Sean was really concerned about the way the park looked, because we haven't had all the snow that we normally have on that park to keep the grass nice and green through the winter and into the spring. But gosh, he sure cares about that park, doesn't he? And just was such a wonderful host yesterday. And he and his sweet wife, Jean, making us dinner last night, the Dutch oven dinner. It was amazing. The potatoes and the barbecued turkey. What a great service that they provided. Amazing people at that park that love it and care for it so dearly. I actually had a chance to go to the Pioneer Visitor Center at the This Is the Place park, and what an amazing facility that is. It's just incredible. If you have an opportunity to go up there to see that, we were there for the open house, the ribbon cutting of the facility, if you will. The chandelier, just the details. The chandelier has wagon wheels inside and trail marks, and stop and look at that neat chandelier that was created, and just all the neat details that was evidence of some real forethought. And I've got to say something about Lost Creek. I'm so glad that it's a state park. That's one of my favorite fishing holes. I go with my good friend Monty Giles from my neighborhood, and we fish at Lost Creek, and I can't wait to get out there and catch a big one. So I'm thrilled with our state parks. I just, more and more people are going to come to these state parks because they're so well cared for and such a great experience. And I was thinking as I was coming down, driving alone and had a lot of time to think, our homes have increased in value, and our parks have increased in value. They're investments, just like our homes are investments. And as we put more capital investment into these wonderful parks, expanding those experiences, they're going to become even more of a critical investment to our lives as residents of Utah, and even for those who are outside the state. So that's my report. I'm thrilled to be a part of this board and to rub shoulders with so many really great people, and especially our park managers and our staff and our leadership. I can't be in a better place than right here. So thank you.
Brent just pulled
Chair?
in. He just pulled in the parking
Oh.
lot, so.
All right, Brent Boswell will be joining us shortly.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Several of us, Corey made a comment, I know Kevin has, and I have, of the really great packet that we get quarterly for these meetings, and particularly about those areas of the division and the sections, and with pictures and the report
Yeah.
of what's happening in each park. And the thought hit me, is that ever shared with the legislative subcommittee on natural resources?
That's a really good point.
I think that piece should just be, it's just an amazing job. I mean, we learn so much about the parks and where their money is being spent and what's happening and what they're looking forward to. So seems to me, if that was a possibility, just that section that tells us what's happening in the parks, the division reports, that would be something good to just ship to that subcommittee of the Natural Resource Committee. If they read it, fine. If they don't, fine. But at least you're letting them know what we're seeing and they can see it too. So
Sure.
just a suggestion.
No, great idea. We do share information with our subcommittee. The department has, is it quarterly or monthly?
DNR meetings.
The newsletter, the DNR newsletter. I want to say it's monthly. That all the divisions do a highlight for what's going on. And so they are getting some information, but I think that's a great idea.
I do too. I completely
Well,
support that.
subcommittee, the main committee. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's so well done. I'm just saying, we appreciate it so much. I know a lot of time and effort goes into that, and them having to send the reports to Amber and she has to compile it all, but it's so well done. And it's such a snapshot statewide of what you're doing in every part that I just thought it would be a great resource for the Natural Resource Committee.
Boy, I
that's my idea.
totally agree, because I mean, not only are we hearing in those reports some of the challenges that the parks are having, but we also see all the successes and the Dark Sky Initiative. I mean, we have 23 dark sky locations now, and there's 100 in the world, and we have 23. I read that and I thought, wow, that's incredible. Justina has done such a tremendous job with that. And I echo the comments about our packet. Amber, you've done a great job. Let's share it. That's a wonderful idea. Okay.
Did you want Brent to report?
Welcome, Brent.
I am
Good
so
to
sorry.
see you.
Woke up and they're like, Kyle threw up. And I'm like,
Oh, no.
I'm sure it's an isolated incident. Drink this water. He drinks it. Throws up again. Like, so yeah, delayed. I feel fine. Hopefully Natalie's sorry.
Here's a mask. You
I
can
know.
wear. That's I've used it.
Anyway, so yeah, and then anyways, yeah.
Well, family,
Stepped down to a federal building on the other end of town.
It's the gift that keeps on giving.
sounds like the morning that, was a great kickoff.
Well, and then we had that big
Right.
event in Juab last night and involved our people. Thankfully, we was reports where there was a cop shot, but now we're hearing that there's not. But we got that from a pretty good source, so it's crazy how new travels in the Old West.
Yeah.
But while you're talking, can you give us an update on the parks in your area? And we've all given a quick report, and if you'd like to give it a report at this time, that'd be awesome.
You know what? I haven't been out to Yuba since our last meeting. Just that little episode yesterday that was pretty close to the park and involved Ranger Slater. But yeah, last I've talked to him, they're doing great. It's still super busy and getting ready for the Memorial Day triple of our county population that takes place. So,
All right.
so that's all I have.
Thank you, Brent. Good to have you here. All right, let's move on to our division reports. If we can hear first from Scott Strong, Deputy Director. Scott?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We're happy to be here today. I have to say, I love the excitement when I hear from the board members about what's going on in the parks. And we do have beautiful places within the state, but even more enjoyment, I think, from my end comes from hearing about when you talk about our staff. It really is the people at the parks that make it the experience that we are able to enjoy. And I'm like you, I've been to a half a dozen parks in the last 3 months and had those wonderful experiences. And it is because of our staff who love what they do and are dedicated and intelligent and skilled at that. So just, I wanted to thank each of you for pointing that out and going out and experiencing that, as well as pointing out our staff and the fantastic job that they do. They do every day. I had a chance to talk to Leisha and Fallon the other day. That was a little interesting. We ran into each other a week or two ago. So it was fun to catch up with Leisha for a minute and talk about some of the things that are going on with her. So anyway, just wish she could be here, but glad you're online with us. Corey talked a lot about the new normal, and I almost feel like, Corey, you talked about a bunch of things that I'm going to talk about today.
Setting the stage for you.
And I appreciate you teeing it up for me. That's super nice. A lot of what I'm going to talk about are numbers, of course, but the numbers reflect visitation and people in our parks. And so when you hear these numbers, think about how that translates into numbers of people coming to our parks. And I know a lot of you are engaged with that. Corey, especially in the southern part of the state, has seen the explosion of visitors, and Wayne too. But these numbers are going to reflect in that. So I want to start off by just giving you a little bit of a background on the division operating profit and loss. And this is the division. I didn't break it out by region because I'm going to be talking about so many numbers. I wanted to keep it a little bit simple. But for some perspective and background, in 2017, our operating profit was about the increase from 16 to 17 was $3 million. Now we're going to jump forward. Last year, we know that, and this is comparing period 10 this year to period 10 of last year. And we know that the impacts of COVID, we saw those early in the year, and then we recovered at the end of the year. We saw a big jump. So keep that in mind when I share this number. But we actually, we dropped about $1 million when we compare period 10 of 19 to period 10 of 20. We went down $1 million, and that's directly isolated or correlated with COVID. Now move forward to today and compare again period 10 of today to period 10 of last year. We're up $8 million. That's a 200% increase. And we haven't, again, just to put it in perspective, we haven't completed the year yet. So when we look at the end of the year, I project that this number could be, I wouldn't be surprised if it's 300% greater than last year. So, I shared this with the region managers yesterday, and one of them just replied back, wow, and it's in every region. So we're seeing it across the state. With that, I don't know if there are any questions with that. The numbers for a minute might take a minute to sink in, but it's huge, that increase. And our operating profit was $12 million. Now with that, one of the things that we also look at is the bank account balance. So we have a restricted fees account. So all of the money that comes in from day use and camping and our concessions, all those activities go into the restricted fees account. And that's something that I also like to watch and monitor. One of the goals that we've had for several years, we talked about this before Jeff was the director, even we talked about this with Fred, and we had an idea of we wanted to get the account balance down to about $15 million. And the account balance was usually about $27 million, and we wanted to use that the difference to invest in state parks, to focus on maintaining our facilities and building new facilities and amenities. So keep that in mind. And in 18, the account balance at this time, period 10 again, was $27 million. Last year, because of a lot of requests, and I think it was mentioned before, our relationship that we have with the legislature, they've been appropriating a lot of money out of that account. So last year, the account balance was just over $16 million. So an $11 million change, that's huge. And we've invested and we've continued to invest, and I'll get into that more. But today, the account balance is $22 million. So even with the drawing down and investing back into state parks, because so many people have come to the parks, our account balance is going up, which is a nice segue into the investment that we've made into state parks. So over the last 8 years, which is when we really started to focus on using our restricted money to pay for creating new parks, new facilities, maintaining our facilities, doing those things. We've spent between 14 and 21, we've spent $104 million out of that restricted money. So this is money that people have paid to come to our state park, and we've reinvested into the state park. Over the last 3 years, we've invested $55 million back into state parks. So when you go around, you'll see new restrooms, new campgrounds, new modern campgrounds with water and power in them. And that's because of this shift where we've focused on the profit and loss and growing the business. And now we're able to take that money and reinvest it. That has never been done before. And I think Jeff and I joked about it a couple of years ago, like, this is the biggest request that we made, and it was $16 or $18 million. And we thought, wow, this will never happen again. We've done it every year since. And because of the support from the legislature, which is really because of our staff who are on the ground doing the work, we've gained that trust and respect in there. They're going to continue to do that. So again, think back, we've increased our bank account back up, and by the end of the year, we're going to have even more money. And we've talked with Jeff and Dave and myself about, with the region managers and park managers, how we're going to take that money to reinvest it again back into state parks. And one of those things, and Jeff might talk about this, is that staffing is one of those major concerns, that we've spent a lot of money, this $104 million on facilities. And part of that, it has been on staffing, but I think, and Jeff can speak more to this, but that's at the top of our list right now, as well as continuing to invest in facilities. So that's all the dollars and numbers part of it. I have one more piece of my presentation, but do you have any questions about those changes or increases? Okay, they're pretty straightforward, big numbers, but really great information. And then the last thing I wanted to touch on is Parks Pass. I gave you a presentation last board meeting about Parks Pass and give you some background on that. And I won't throw Shane, our Attorney General, our Assistant Attorney General, under the bus as far as attorneys go, but we've worked for the last 3 months with attorneys to get this contract signed, and it's not Shane. So I mean, it might be his associates, but it's taken 3 months to get the contract signed, and it was done yesterday. So I'm super excited about that. One of my goals and hopes was to have it done by the upcoming Memorial Day, so that we would have that ready to go and have that out to our staff. And I'm still hopeful. We have to get some equipment out there, but hopefully that'll be in place. And that involves online payments, electronic payments, handheld scanners, so our staff can just scan somebody's cell phone and see that they paid their fee. It'll have live data for our staff to see as far as where people are coming from, what time they're coming, all kinds of neat dashboards, sort of things that change instantaneously as someone enters the park. It'll be more data than they've ever had, and it'll be at their fingertips. There'll be maps that are interactive. So it's a little bit funny, but I was at Snow Canyon State Park a couple of weeks ago, and I always go down to the lava tubes, but it's kind of funny. I discovered a new lava tube, which is crazy. And so it'd be nice to have a map like this. And I'm sure Corey's been to the lava tube that I'm talking about. But for me, it was like, oh, wow, there's more than one. And anyway, it was really neat. And this electronic map will help with that, as well it'll help with brochures too. So we'll be able to give people more information at their fingertips. We won't see brochures laying around the park and deal with that sort of thing. We're going to digitize the annual pass again. We'll have loyalty programs that we haven't had in the past where we can engage with our visitors. And then the last thing that I'll mention today is just an online retail presentation or option for people to use. So let's say Bob goes to Dead Horse Point and doesn't want to pack back something, but you see something neat in the gift shop, you can buy it right there. It'll be fulfilled through Amazon. When you get home, it'll be on your front porch.
That's pretty
which is
cool.
really neat. And so we talked about all these, I always bring crazy ideas to the staff at Dixie State University and Southern Utah University. And every time they meet or exceed my dreams, which is just, it's unreal a lot of times. And retail was one of them. So we talked about this fulfillment process, but one of the individuals who's on the staff, she is a graphic designer as well as a programmer. And she loves dinosaurs. She's like Amber, she loves dinosaurs. So she took the retail idea and she said, well, what if I create my own t-shirt and we can sell this t-shirt? But it was the Jurassic Park logo with a Utah Raptor instead of the T-Rex on it. And then it says Utah Raptor State Park at the bottom. And she was wearing it that day, and I didn't even recognize it because it was so well done. It looked just like, Jurassic Park. And when she was talking about it, she's like, well, I'm wearing it. And I thought, wow, this is so neat. So it's all these neat things, but it's also being engaged and being around these students who love and are so excited about what they're doing, which makes this project even more fun. But that's my presentation.
Thank you.
Maybe just a download from like Apple Play or, okay.
Yep, it'll be, you can do it online, so you'll be able to access it on your computer as well as on your Android or iPhone.
I'm sitting here just thinking that every year is a new year for state parks because of innovation, because of creativity, because of thinking outside the box, because of smart people. We have a lot of firsts.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first time we've offered this. This is the first time we've offered that. This is the first time we've had this much money to invest in state parks. This is the first time we've had this many camp. And I go back to a thought that I had 4 years ago or so, where I said to the board, if money was not an issue and our vision was completely open to what we could do at our state parks, what would we do? And it seems like we're fulfilling all of that right now, which I think is really, really awesome. So the vision of state parks continues to expand, it seems like every year, with new innovations and new improvements and better bathrooms and better campgrounds and better this and that, creating this experience for people that they don't get anywhere else. I just think it's awesome.
And honestly, I'm very unlike government. So way to go, everybody.
Yeah.
We're acting like the private sector, and I think universities do that too. But it's awesome job, you guys.
It's really, really exciting. Well, thank you so much, Scott, for your report. Let's go to Dave Harris, Deputy Director over Operations.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to say a special thanks to everybody for yesterday. It was an awesome day, and thanks for Amber and Wayne and Kevin at Fremont and his staff, and Sean and his staff and wife that provided dinner and golfing and whatever else we did. And
Yeah, we discovered you're quite the golfer, Dave.
no,
A hidden talent.
Luckily, we played best ball. I think I had one best ball out of what, eight rounds.
It was fun.
So it was a lot of fun. It was fun. It was good spending time with everybody yesterday, and Darren too, being there. It was great. Learned a lot about the parks. I've been there number of times, but every time I go, I learn something different and see something new, because things are always changing. And, hats off to our staff statewide. I was trying to get all my notes together last night and trying to remember all the incidents we've had and the rescues and the compliments that our staff have been receiving. They're coming in, almost every day. But just to let you know, our staff are doing awesome around the state. Our state park field staff, our region managers, our program managers, our program staff. Everybody's really pulled together after a hard year last year and not much break this winter, and then an early start to our season. So everybody's feeling, I've heard a couple people say it feels like we're drinking out of a fire hose. So, but everybody's hanging in there and we really appreciate that. Things I've been working on, Scott, Jeff, and I, every year around this time in the spring, we travel to each region and meet with each park staff. We used to call them budget hearings because originally, like 20 years ago when I started, that's all you did is talked about the budget. But we've tried to morph that into, we want to hear what's going on, the successes at the park, the failures, other things we can kind of help the parks do to be successful. So those are really enlightening meetings and meaningful meetings. So we've met with Wayne's region next week. We've met with Lori's region and Megan's region so far, and we'll wrap it up with Wayne's region next week. And then from there, we take all that information, the region managers condense it down, give us their highest priorities. Then that's what we work on our legislative ask for next year. So we're almost there on getting that put together. Also, I try to do every other year, go to each region and tour the region with the park managers. And I've been to Wayne's region and Lori's region and going to Megan's region the first week of June. And we'll hit a bunch of parks there and see the exciting things that are happening on ground, the things that they need help with, the things that are frustrating them. So we try to look at it from both angles. And I let the region manager pick which parks they want to show off or show what the issues are. So I'm looking forward to meeting with Megan and her region, and it's been great meeting with Wayne and Lori on theirs. We have increased some positions in the division in the last little bit. With Lost Creek coming online, we hired a assistant park manager to start working at Lost Creek. We complexed Lost Creek and East Canyon State Park into what we call a complex. They'll be managed by Chris Haramoto, the park manager at East Canyon. And so we've hired that person to help him get started. There's a lot of work initially with the development and getting all that online. So, and then plus there is some expectation it's going to be called a state park, and it's already been released that it is a state park, even though probably legislatively it doesn't take effect till July 1st. The expectation is already there. So we will have a law enforcement presence up there this summer as well. And then Utah Raptor, next Tuesday, we're having the interviews for the new park manager for that park. And that will be a law enforcement park manager. There's a lot of critical issues there with off-highway vehicle enforcement and illegal camping. So they'll be working on those issues initially, along with all the development and community connections and everything it's going to take to get that park going. So we're excited about that. We did hire an extra law enforcement person, sergeant, for down in the Washington County Park area. And that individual's responsible for providing assistance to specifically those Washington County parks, but more specifically to Sand Hollow, which has really been hit, as you've heard a couple times already today, by greatly increased visitation.
So
And issues with law enforcement.
is there special law enforcement training with these, or you're hiring regular law enforcement personnel that get trained a little bit in the state parks when they get there?
This position was hired from within. So it was a park ranger from another park, specifically at Yuba, Brandon, from you.
Take Cheston or you're gonna be in trouble.
No, he's already
Give him a raise, but don't move him. Okay, I was just curious.
So yes, it was an internal person that's very familiar with boating, off-highway vehicle and in-park enforcement, one of our top performers. So it was good to see him move down there. And then we have a couple other new positions in the wings that we're working on. We've had a couple exciting promotions as well. There's lots of opportunity within state parks right now. Aaron Farmer's our new manager at Dead Horse Point State Park. He's moving there from Green River State Park. Nathan Martinez will be our new manager at Green River State Park, and he's moving from Kodachrome State Park. And then Wayne has a new office manager in Cedar City, and her name's Nicole Topham. So those are a few of our new positions. We've been hiring a ton of rangers to staff the bottom as people move and retire and stuff. And we just had 5 rangers that graduated from post. 2 of those are going to be assigned to Willard Bay, 1 to Yuba, 1 to Fred Hayes, and 1 to Huntington Mill Site Schofield. So those folks are already out there, just graduated like 2 weeks ago and going through their initial training with our folks, and they're at the parks already. And we got them there just before Memorial Day, so those should be good. And then we have 6 rangers that have been given contingent job offers. They've made it through our recruitment process, and right now they're going through polygraphs, psychological analysis, and their background checks, and hopefully we'll have those on by Memorial Day as well. They won't be post-certified, but at least they'll be rangers working in the parks. So we hope to have those on here in the next week or 2. Also, we had some good news yesterday, and on our COVID events update, we're going to, by June 1st, we'll be kind of back to our old normal maybe on how we host events in our parks, and with the relaxing of mandates and such, we'll be able to kind of get back to normal. That's probably one of the biggest questions I get on a regular basis is when can we get back to normal on events? And, you know, when we first started asking the parks to work with their communities and do more events and encourage hosting events and stuff, there was a little bit of resistance. It's like, we got to do all that. And over the years, I think they've realized, you know, the importance of that. And now it's almost the other way. You think, well, they'd be glad they didn't do events, but that's one thing they want to get back to, doing events, hosting school groups, working with the communities on things like Paddle Fest and some of those ones that we haven't been able to have lately. So we're really excited about that. And I'll be getting an email out later this week with how things are going to work on June 1st. A couple big projects we've been working on as well as guideline updates, and it's kind of been a frustrating process, especially for Amber, I guess. There's a software company that we work through, and you know, she's working with the help desk trying to get everything lined up, and finally they found some glitch deep down in the language of the software that wouldn't allow us to do it. So we've got all that worked out. Putting a big emphasis on getting all of our guidelines in a location that all our staff can access those guidelines and know what they're required to do. So we'll continue the process now of updating the language in those guidelines. It's been at least 2 directors previous since those have been updated and approved. So that's an exciting process we're working on. And I hope to have by this meeting, a packet of rules for your approval, but kept getting delayed. And then I just about had it ready, and somebody asked that why question that Fred Hayes always asked to ask, and then that threw me back. So I have to do some more research before, hopefully next board meeting, I'll have that packet of rules. And a lot of them are lessening restrictions in state parks, as I've looked through the rules and found some that are outdated or inconsistent. You know, where one park has a specific rule and others don't. And that was created by a manager 20 years ago. And now nobody goes, well, I don't know why we have that rule. So we're looking at those and getting rid of those. And the interesting one that threw everything kind of in a tailspin was working on lessening the restrictions on dogs in the parks, and had it about done and sent it out for like a final review, and somebody asked a question, well, why don't we allow dogs on beaches? We have a hard time keeping them off. And so I thought, well, great. You know, they want to lessen restrictions even more. So there's some parks that still want to have that restriction and some that don't. So I'm going to work through that and see how we're going to do that. It might be where between the region manager and the park manager, if they want to have a certain area that's dog restricted. I have to check into county health codes. I don't know if there's something besides our state park rule that restricts, dogs on beaches. So anyway, I hope to have that by our August board meeting for you to review. And I think that was everything on my list. So unless there's any questions, thank you for the time.
Just a shout out and a kudo. Your EDS is amazing. To do that online was such a challenge.
It really
but,
was.
You pulled it off so well. It was kind of fun to
There was a guy that helped, or I
Wow.
want to say more than helped, that made sure it went, kept us in line and yeah,
to
Paul.
do it and how you had to do it was, I think, amazing. So again, kudos to your staff for all those that EDS.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, it was
All the preparations and the work,
Yeah.
it was good.
It was really fun. It's hard to have fun over, virtually, but we did.
Yep.
It was really fun.
We hope that we try to do that every other year. Hopefully next time it's in person. So.
What do you think is the biggest challenge that you face right now? Is it personnel, filling positions, having enough seasonals to manage?
I think as we've gone around and been talking to folks, and I hear it all the time anyway too, is staff shortages, difficulty in getting in seasonals, and we're trying to work through those issues. And as we've been going around too, like what are our building blocks going to be in the next year? And I talked to Jeff and Scott about it. It seems like we're getting a lot of water issues, and not necessarily the lakes are low kind of issue. It's our wells not pumping as good as it used to be, or we don't have adequate pressure up in this loop of the campground, and it's going to cost $2 million to get that fixed, or we don't have enough holding capacity per the fire codes. We need a bigger tank, and those are all really expensive projects, but they're all projects that could shut down a park. So those are some kind of frustrating issues that in working with water rights and sometimes maybe we want a development, but maybe there's not enough water to do that development. So those are just a few.
You mentioned that there are some frustrations at the park level at times, and I just see you as the person that clears the path and keeps those frustrations to a minimum, because you're working really hard to make sure that those things are eliminated, and that park managers are doing everything they can to have an efficient and effective park. And so, well, kudos to you for all that you do. Jeff, are you ready? Jeff
hope so.
Rasmussen, Director.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's so great to be here, and so great to be here in person and see you face to face. I'm sure the rest of you all are just like me. You're tired of the online meetings, and it's nice to start moving back to normal. I like to call it normal, not the new normal, Corey, but whatever you call it, I like it. It's wonderful to start moving back to that. And like Dave announced, with our thumbs up from Brian and the governor's office to start hosting events like we've been doing, that's been a real challenge for us, for our staff, for our communities that depend on those people coming in and supporting the local businesses. And definitely not something that we like doing or wanted to do, but something, unfortunately, that came with the mess that we've been dealing with. So it's so nice to be moving back to normalcy and starting to host all those people and be a part of the community again. So not that we weren't busy during the time, we definitely been record-breaking visitation, but there's been a huge demand for those group activities, and we're happy to be able to jump back into that. And of course, with that, it's not jumping back in blindly. There still be the recommendations that are followed and encouraged, and obviously we'll be doing it safely. It won't be a free-for-all. Great to be here. I was trying to think of what do I share with the board, and I don't know that I ever really gave a rundown to you all as to what happened with the session. I don't think I did. Last time we met, we were mid-session, so we talked a lot about a lot of the things that might happen, but we didn't really know where everything was going to land, and a lot happened since then. So some of this, maybe all of it, is going to be kind of a review, but I thought I would go over that if that sounds all right. And certainly if I miss anything, let me know and I'll try to jump into it. I call it a historic legislative session. Every session I think, man, it couldn't get busier. It couldn't get crazier. I got to share something that one of our former directors shared with me. He said the only thing crazier than a session with no money is a session with a lot of money. I didn't really get what he meant until the session started, and I realized that he's right. It's amazing what happens when, and crazy that we go from $1 billion shortage to $1.5 billion excess. So it was crazy, and there was a lot of stuff going on, but a lot of really good stuff. On top of that, since we last met, we've just had a tremendous visitation year, and you all have talked about it in your reports. It started in southern Utah, in Corey's neck of the woods. We thought last spring was crazy with COVID and when the county restrictions were lifted, but we continue to break records, and that trend just continues. And every year it's like a broken record. We think there's no way we could get busier. There's no way we're going to have more visitation and we're going to make more money, but we do. And Scott, I don't know if you shared it or not. If you did, I missed it. But one fact that I've been sharing with people is just in how our visitation has grown. Let's speak. How our visitation has grown over the last 5 years. We've jumped from let's see, what was it? Now I'm forgetting. 5 million visitors 5 years ago. It's so low. It's hard to think that it's realistic. 5 million visitors, and we thought that was a lot. We thought that was a really big number, and it was at the time. Last calendar year, we had over 11 million visitors. That's crazy to me to think about the reality and really a testament to how busy our parks are and how much demand for outdoor recreation that there is. And it's a huge challenge to be able to accommodate everybody. And it's certainly nice not to have the COVID restrictions that we had last year so that we can fully utilize our facilities. So we're excited about that. I just have 3 bills that I wanted to talk about. HCR 13, Representative Stratton passed that I think I had talked about it in February, but it directed our division to conduct a study as to future management at Brightonville Falls. If you were watching the news back earlier this year, there was a lot of talk about what might happen at Brightonville Falls. There was a proposal to potentially privatize the area. And of course, a lot of concern about that. It's a very popular area. And the direction that we were given by this legislation was to conduct a study as to what should the future of Brightonville Falls be? Should it be a state park? Should it be a state monument? Should it have some other sort of state management, or should it stay kind of under the same management scenario under the county? We're currently in the middle of that study. We've contracted with a firm to help us with that. We've met with our initial partners, which include Utah County, Utah Open Lands, who manages the conservation easement, and then, of course, our state park staff. And as we move through this process, there are a ton of stakeholders that are interested in the future of Brightonville Falls. Provo City, Orem City, different recreational groups. There's just a lot of interest in that. So there'll be public meetings that we hold, and the plan is to have a report ready to present at legislative interim in October or November. So we're working on that. Senator Hinkins,
I was
yes.
just going to point out that I think it's been said about that piece of legislation that it was the best piece of legislation that was written all session long.
Good reminder.
It
was particularly well written by someone in this room, but yeah. And just a little side story on that that I may or may not, or maybe I shouldn't share, but I will. This proposal started as a state monuments bill. And I worked with Representative Stratton to try to give us some more time to put some thought into what the best scenario is. I had some concerns about whether or not that was the right direction to go. And this study is going to help us determine that. But yeah, there's someone in this room that may have helped with that legislation that's particularly good at writing. Anyway, SJR 11 that was passed by Senator Hinkins. It was a joint resolution celebrating the 50th anniversary of the off-highway vehicle program. That was an awesome recognition for what Chris and Rachel and our off-highway vehicle program do for the state in our state parks, outside of our state parks, gives us an opportunity to highlight those efforts, to talk about the importance of the program, the safety promotion that goes with it, the economic benefits. It gives us a chance to talk about promoting responsible use during the summer and winter seasons, and just highlight all those positive opportunities. So we were excited about that, and Chris did a lot of work working with Senator Hinkins to make that happen. And then the last one that I wanted to highlight was House Bill 111 that Representative Albrecht ran, that changed the age requirements for off-highway vehicle operation. For years, it's been a problem that the off-highway vehicle manufacturers make machines that kids under 8 years old can easily control. Russ, you know this far better than I do. And as a law enforcement officer, when I was a park ranger, it was difficult to have to come and tell families that, well, technically you can't ride on public land. Even though you're all suited up, you have a helmet and gloves and boots and you're being safe, you can't legally operate on public land. So this change eliminated the age requirement. And this is consistent with what some of the other states have done. And basically, as long as they can operate and safely operate and reach all the controls, they've completed the required safety training, and they're under direct supervision of an adult, they can now operate on public land. So what it does is legalizes what's been going on for quite a while, and really helps promote. Thumbs up, Russ, you're right. It was a huge get, and I believe it went through without any opposition.
None whatsoever.
So
On both sides of the aisle.
we were super excited about that change. I think overall we tracked just over 100 bills that had some sort of impact on state parks and recreation. So we were definitely busy, and certainly we don't have time to go through that list, but happy to talk about it if you're interested at a different time. The other thing that I wanted to highlight was the tremendous investment that the legislature decided to make into our state park system. Historic, again, $120 million appropriated to our state park system. Scott and I, Scott was referencing a discussion that we had that we thought it was crazy that we were asking for $16 million and we'll never get it. And this session, we ended up with a total of $20 million to reinvest into our state park system. It's hard to fathom, the amount of resources that brings to our system and the good that it will do for our system. So we're super excited about it. I wanted to break that down really quickly. 13.5 million of that 120 went to our 2 new state parks that were created this last session. Utah Raptor State Park in Grand County. A total of 29 million was appropriated for that park. That's a big number. Part of that, 7.5 million of that, is for the purchase of the Sitla land. That's basically half of that recreation area that will become a state park. We're currently working with Sitla to get that appraised and hoping that it falls within that budget that we have, and we're pretty confident that it will. But that's one of the first steps that we're doing. I love Utah Raptor area. I have to admit, 2 sessions ago when we were talking about Utah Raptor and I was looking at it on Google Maps, I thought, wow, what are we getting here? You look at some of the aerial photographs and it's a little bit scary. So I went there and visited it 2 sessions ago, and I was blown away at how beautiful it is. You have views of Arches National Parks, of the La Salle Mountains. It's crisscrossed with off-highway vehicle trails and mountain bike trails, and it's a spectacular playground. On top of that, it has the historic dinosaur quarry where the Utah Raptor fossil was found. It has the historic Moab Isolation Center ruins and the CCC camp. And so there's a story of history to tell. There's a recreation component. There's a scenic component. What I love about this park is it has everything that you want in a state park, and it's put right in the middle of all things recreation in Grand County. You're right on the edge of Arches National Park. You're just down the road from Dead Horse Point and Canyonlands. And on top of all this, as if that wasn't enough, this is an opportunity to solve a really big problem down there with just out of control recreation use with no resources to manage it, no facilities. So there's a huge problem with human waste and trash. And so this will give us an opportunity to come in and fix that problem. So we're super excited about that. We'll be working with Grand County and other stakeholders as we develop the plans and the future planning document that will guide the direction of that park, but it's going to be awesome. The other part of that, the other park that is included in that 36.5 million was Lost Creek. Lost Creek is a Bureau of Reclamation facility. If you look on Google Maps, I think it says Lost Creek State Park. If you look on a lot of the old UDOT maps, it says Lost Creek State Park. We've had a part in that park on and off for several years. We backed away from it 10, 12 years ago when the economy wasn't so great and our budget was cut. And so Lost Creek is kind of a diamond in the rough. It's been a facility that's been used but never really developed. Corey, it kind of reminds me of Gunlock. This is going to give us an opportunity to come in and develop it. And Lost Creek has a lot of the same problems that the Utah Raptor site has. It has a lot of visitation that's been coming for boating and swimming and fishing and just all the recreational aspects that are there, but really very few facilities. I think there's 1 or 2 vault toilets there, nowhere near the facilities that are needed to be able to host those people. So it gives us an opportunity to create another boating park. And one of the things that I love about Lost Creek is it's on the Wasatch back where there's so much demand. And so this will help ease some of that demand and offer another opportunity. And the other little additional really cool thing about Lost Creek State Park is that it's a Bureau of Reclamation facility. And so we can match our state money dollar for dollar with federal money. So the $7.5 million that they appropriated for that site is actually half of what we figured it would cost to fully develop it. And the expectation is that Bureau of Reclamation will come up with the other half. So we're going to phase that one in. Utah Raptor will be built completely with 2 campgrounds. We'll fully develop that one. Lost Creek will get about halfway, but enough to be able to open it up, cut the ribbon, and provide those basic facilities. So we're super excited about those. Okay.
Are there ribbon cutting events planned for both of these new state parks?
Absolutely. Yes.
And the board members and others will be
Yep.
invited to those.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because that's something that we realized over the last year or two that we need to do a better job at. We've done a lot of major improvements in our state parks. Heck, we even created a new state park at Echo. And we quietly make these improvements and open these facilities and don't say anything about it. And we need to take this opportunity to talk about how we've invested these dollars and talk about the benefits, the financial benefits that come to the local communities, the recreational benefits that come to visitors that are visiting the park. And so we're going to be doing a lot more of that in the future to talk about what we're doing and how it benefits Utah residents and visitors and local economies. And so I think the first one that we have coming up is Willard Bay for the pond development that's going on up there, which is going to be spectacular. Isn't that the next one, Scott?
Yeah,
Okay.
it is.
So we're going to have a whole bunch of those. You're going to get tired of cutting ribbons.
Bring it
But-
on.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, 67 million was given to us on top of those 2 parks for state park expansion projects. I got a call early in the session about what would you do if we appropriated a lot of money to you to invest in our state parks? And I said, well, what is a lot of money? Is it, is it $1 million, $5 million, $100 million? And anyway, I didn't really get a figure, but we started putting a list together. And one of the benefits of having these annual meetings with our park managers is we have a good list of new ideas for state park expansion. So we already had a pretty good list, and this was Speaker Wilson and President Adams that we were working with on this. They realize both are strong recreation supporters, And they both understand and realize that there's a tremendous demand in outdoor recreation facilities throughout Utah, and just nowhere near the facilities to accommodate that demand. And they figured state parks was a good place to be able to make an impact on that. So the direction that we were given with that money was put it where we get the biggest bang for the buck. We want to create as many new campsites, parking lots, beaches, trails, trailheads, all the things people are looking for, and spread it out as much as you can throughout the state. So we benefit as many local communities as we can. And so anyway, that's kind of how we came up with this list. And I was going to go through it really quick. And I can't remember if I've shared this with you, and if I haven't, I'll make sure that I do. But Willard Bay State Park. So we're going to be finishing up the pond development, which I believe adds another 350 so parking spaces and another water recreation facility at Willard Bay. On top of that, with this money, we'll be building a new campground and beach area. There's a beach area that's undeveloped on the south end of that north entrance where the main boat ramp is, that we can add another half mile to 3/4 mile beach area, which is in huge demand there at Willard Bay. Sand Hollow State Park, a new campground on the far side where the primitive camping currently is, and additional new day use areas. Gunlock State Park, a campground and day use area below the dam. We had a tour there a few years ago, and if you remember down below the dam, there's a lot of trees down there, and it's actually spectacular. It's a beautiful area. Bear Lake State Park, we're just finishing up a project at North Eden. It's our farthest state park property on the east side, right on the Idaho border. This will give us funding for another campground on the east side. Bear Lake's one of the state parks that has plenty of room for development. We just need to be able to put the facilities in. So a new campground and beach day use improvements on that east side. Antelope Island State Park, a new campground. Location yet to be determined, but we're thinking somewhere on the west side where you have a great view of the lake. There was also $1 million that we were asked to appropriate towards a visitor center expansion that the Antelope Island Friends Group has been working on. That's actually a $12 million facility, and this $1 million would go towards the design and engineering for that facility. And they want to make it not just a visitor center, but a learning center for students to come and have events and activities to learn about the Great Salt Lake and the ecosystem out there. So Jordanelle State Park, a beach expansion at Ross Creek where we're adding more parking and beach access, and then a campground and day use area at Rock Cliff. Rock Cliff's on the east side of Jordanelle. It's where the nature center is, those boardwalks that cross the Provo River. It's a beautiful area. Rockport State Park, more day use there. And beach access. Goblin Valley State Park, another campground and day use improvements. Escalante, Petrified Forest State Park, campgrounds and day use areas. Red Fleet State Park, a campground and day use area. Green River State Park, campground and lodging expansion. Scott's had a dream, and I've adopted that dream as well, with cabins right along the Green River at the edge of the golf course. It's one of the most spectacular views we have in our state parks. And then lastly, out of that $67 million, a new campground at Deer Creek. All of these additions are so much needed. We're turning people away on a daily basis at every one of these parks. So it will help accommodate so many more people. And they're all good business investments. So these are going to bring more money in to help improve our profitability of our system and give us more funding to be able to reinvest in the state park system. As if that wasn't enough, before all this happened, our building block was to ask for $16 million from our restricted money to do these same kind of projects. So out of that $16 million, $3 million for another campground at Bear Lake State Park. And that's going to be at that North Eden area that I was telling you that we had the day use developments. 3.5 million at Escalante or Escalant for a campground. We want to bring in power to Goblin Valley. That's a $3 million project. That's a lot of money, but how many miles is it out there? I want to say 17 to 20 miles from Hanksville. And Goblin Valley has been on solar power for so long, and this would completely transform that park and not only bring in facilities that our visitors are looking for, but also the infrastructure and power that we need to run the park. So we're super excited about that. $400,000 for Palisade. If you were at Palisade yesterday, you got to see we're building that new campground. $3 million for Quail Creek for a campground. We need to replace a water line at Great Salt Lake State Park. That's going to cost $2.5 million. It's one of those projects that you hate to spend the money on it, but if we're losing our water line from Stansbury Park, and we need to find a new water source, and we talked about the importance of water. You can't run a park without water. So we're going to be rerouting that out to where the prison site is, out there on the frontage road of I-80. And then lastly, $750,000 for motorized boat rentals. We found that our customers it's so expensive to buy, operate, and maintain a boat. And our motorized boating concessionaires at our parks are so successful and so in demand, but a lot of our rural parks can't attract those companies to come to provide that service. So we want to be able to do that, to offer that service to our visitors. And we think it's going to be really popular and a good business investment. That kind of rounds out the whole $120 million. So in a nutshell, we figure that this is going to add about 500 campsites, which is about a 20% increase in our camping inventory for state parks, which is huge. And another about 1,000 additional parking spaces, which is about a 10% increase in our day use parking capacity, which those numbers don't really sound that big, but when you think about it, that means we're literally able to host thousands more people per day. Those parking spaces are used multiple times per day, so it really is going to have a huge impact. It won't be able to address everybody that wants to come to our state parks, but it's a good step in the right direction. Anyway, that's what I had on the investment. Lastly, wanted to talk about the division split. House Bill 346 by Representative Snyder did pass, and that basically the easiest way to describe it is it splits our division into two divisions, the Division of State Parks and the Division of Recreation. Ultimately, I think this is going to be something that's going to allow both divisions to focus better on what they do. State Parks focusing on state parks, Division of Recreation focusing on all things recreation statewide. So the boating and OHV programs, they already cover the entire state, including state parks. But this gives them a better opportunity to look at the whole picture and not be under the structure of our Division of State Parks and Recreation as they currently are. It also I think is going to open up the potential to bring in a lot of additional resources that we don't have for more recreation investment beyond just our state parks. Certainly we'll be working together a lot because with the boating and OHV programs moving to the Division of Recreation, there's going to be a need for a very strong coordination between our two divisions. What I like about this is it falls under DNR, so we're still a part of the DNR family. We'll still be working within the same footprint in the same office, and so it will allow for easy communication and coordination. We're just in the very initial steps of figuring out how do we make this work, and I'll be meeting with Brian and probably Darren next week to start hammering that out. Initially, the only position that was funded with new money was for a director. The additional staffing positions that division will need are initially going to come from the boating and off-highway vehicle programs. And so, how we do this and which positions are report to which division is kind of work in progress right now. But that did pass, and we will be moving forward with it. And I think, I'll be honest with you, it's going to be a little difficult and messy to kind of work through it. We've been doing, the Division of Parks and Recreation has been doing things the way they've been doing it for 50 years. So you don't just split it and walk away and everything works great. I think it's going to be a work in progress, but luckily we've got a year from July 1st to be able to make it happen. So there's plenty of time to be able to make this happen. And I really think in the end, it's going to be very beneficial for both sides to be able to focus just more on those two different things. I hope that makes sense. Anyway, with all this, we've definitely got our hands full with record visitation, with some major changes with our agency, with these record investments, but these are super awesome, exciting things, and couldn't be happier with the support. And I'm getting comments from Speaker Wilson and others that they want to make this more of a regular thing. Not that 120 million is going to be a regular thing, but more investment into state parks and more investment into outdoor recreation. So I'd say it's a really good time to be in the outdoor recreation business like we are. I wanted to touch really quick on water levels. Bob, I think you asked about challenges. Water levels are going to be a huge challenge this year. The Sevier River in particular, we've got 3 of our state parks on the Sevier River, Otter Creek, Paiute, and Yuba. I've been watching Yuba because I know Yuba. It's near and dear to my heart. And at its peak this year, it was just barely above 40%. It's already dropped down to 30%. That sounds terrible, and it kind of is, but Yuba is such a big reservoir that there's still plenty of water to recreate on. So Kevin, get your boat out now and take advantage because it's dropping fast. As of yesterday, it was going out at 430 CFS and only coming in at 30 CFS. You can't maintain that kind of a withdrawal. So one of the good things, if you can call it a good thing, at Echo with low water levels, will actually work in our favor because we'll be starting phase 2 at Echo with some money that we got last year from our restricted account to completely redo that main access to Echo Reservoir. And there's been a lot of concerns about us doing that during the busy season because of the impact that it has to the local community. But I think if we're going to pick a year, this is going to be a good year to do it because by the time we get that project going and mobilized, I don't really think there's going to be any water to worry about anyway, unfortunately. We're looking at mid to late July and Echo's already really quite low. So I guess if you want to look for a silver lining, that's kind of a silver lining. The other really quick thing I wanted to mention was with our building block request for next year, we're planning to have a major part of that be for staffing. I think we've done a great job at filling all the seasonal staffing needs that our parks have needed over the last few years. But it's time to start adding some full-time positions. You don't go from 5 million visitors to 11 million visitors without having to make some investments in full-time people. And so we'll be doing that, and we're hearing it from our parks, and I've heard it from some of you, but it's definitely going to be a priority that we'll be working on. That concludes my update, unless any of you had any questions. Other than I should just mention real quick that I love our staff. They're awesome. None of this would be possible without our staff. I don't think we would have ever got the support we got had our parks not been run as good as they are. And I kind of makes me want to tear up, but I just love that our people are here because they want to be here. They're doing this because they love outdoor recreation. They believe in it and they're invested in it. And when you come to work with that kind of an attitude, you're going to put out a good work product. You're going to be a good host to the public, and they do a great job. And we don't say it enough. I just want to say hats off to all of our staff for the great work that they do. So that's all I had, unless any of you have questions or comments.
You know, I was just thinking, last year was a tough year. It required a lot of adjusting, a lot of adapting. It required real flexibility. And if there was ever a hard year to have to adjust to, it was last year for the staff, which, you know, and they flew through it. I mean, they worked through it. And, you know, so if there are challenges in the future, you know that you've got the talent and the capabilities and the people with the attitudes that are going to take the challenge, and they're going to meet it head on and
Yep.
work through it. So
They're awesome.
yeah, they are awesome. We have some questions.
No, just a comment. I'll just say it once, just to get it off my chest, but I was disappointed with this legislation. I really was, because to me, you said outdoor recreation, that is state parks. How do you separate recreation from state parks? That's what state parks is recreation, and you can't even say it without saying it's recreation. It's going as camping, it's fishing, it's
Sure.
all of that is intertwined. And I don't think that was a great move. I'm not there in the legislature, but I just want on the record. I'm not happy with it. They need to pick another name for that division, because recreation doesn't fit it. It fits state parks. So just saying it.
Hey, but I will, okay, a silver lining to it for you, Claudia. Maybe I can give you a silver lining.
This is what I
One-
love about Claudia. You have the courage to stand up and say what you believe, and that's, we have,
It isn't, it's not right.
it's great.
This is little, but I gotta say it because it's kind of a big thing for us. But we've always been the Division of Parks and Recreation, and it's always driven us crazy because the Division of Parks and Recreation, what does that mean? Is it city parks? Is it county parks? Is it federal parks? Well, one little minor change that we were able to make is that we did clarify that, so it will be the Division of State Parks. It was going to be the Division of Parks, and it's little, but it clarifies what we really are, and I'm excited about it.
State parks and recreation, it's totally recreation.
Okay, it didn't work. I tried.
That was a good effort, though. We always want to have in these meetings, to feel safe enough that we can express how we feel. And I just love that you have the courage and you're awesome at communicating those thoughts.
So Jeff, I guess question, the legislature right now is working on some funding, some COVID relief funding, some monies. I've seen just a little bit of information from the executive director, from Brian. Is any of that directed towards the division here, or do you know what's happening with that?
There is a significant amount of funding that they're working on right now, and State Parks has definitely been in that conversation. There's been nothing that I've seen that is a definite, but based on what happened last session, I think there's a pretty good possibility that there could be some funding.
A lot of it is because it's federal. I mean, they were for specific things.
Right.
And even with infrastructure, it had to be certain types of things, water.
Right, I'm
things
aware
like that. I mean,
water and conservation and-
$100 million
Yep.
for water development. And so even though we as agencies were asked to put up some different projects, most of them in the end did not qualify.
Okay.
At least this round.
But if it does come our way, if I get that call, what would you do with
Got a wish
this
list.
other pile of money?
Yep.
We're gonna have a list that'll be 10 times
Sounds good.
so we'll be ready to go.
Very good. Thank you.
Jeff, question for employees as we're looking to expand them. How is the housing situation for the employees for state parks? I know affordable housing has been a question across
Yeah.
the state, but does the state park, what does the future of that look like and opportunities there?
We're that is a really big concern for most every one of our parks. I don't know what the exact number is. I would guess that maybe a third, would you say, currently have housing? A fourth to a third, somewhere in that neighborhood. And we haven't really seriously talked about adding housing for a long time, but now we are. So Utah Raptor State Park will have housing with it. I don't know that there's really anywhere affordable in Utah anymore. But certainly there's areas that are more of a challenge, and Grand County is definitely one of those. So that park will have housing, and probably do the same at Lost Creek. And one of the things that Scott's been working on is using these, we're calling them cottages now, the mini homes. We're going to be using those for housing seasonal employees, and they're much more than a cottage. They really are mini homes. And so most of them have 2 bedrooms, a full bathroom and a kitchen. And so I think that's going to help us tremendously with full-time and part-time employees and helping attract and retain employees, because it is so difficult. I don't know how anyone, especially someone just starting out, can even get into a house right now. And even the rental market, I hear, is just crazy. So that's definitely something that we're working on, and we'll be adding a lot more housing in the future.
That's why I've decided to sell my house, and I'm going to rent the pit house at Fremont Indian every day for the next 20 years. It'll be cheaper to live
Do you have anything else to add to that?
at the park.
Just so you know, Natalie, we have about $1 million that we invested last year into these tiny houses. So those are going out. We'll make another request this coming session for more.
Could a normal sized person fit in a tiny house?
John has one at Gunlock. so
Yeah, I've
you have
seen
to
it.
go over
Okay, I
there.
just haven't been in yet.
You'll fit just fine.
That pit house is perfect for me. It's perfect
Okay.
for little people.
I stayed in it. It was great.
Okay.
Hey, the division reports were awesome. Thank you for those, and great information. Let's talk about off-highway vehicle program. Chris, are you ready, or Rachel, are you going first?
It's always ready.
We'll have Rachel go ahead. and
Okay.
discuss.
Rachel, do you want to sit here where you have a microphone? Perfect.
Okay. So you guys have it in the packet before you. And as you guys can see, this is the fourth quarter of fiscal year 2021. And I just want to say that this will be actually our second full year of this grant cycle. So as of today, it'll be 2 years in the making. And just a little background information on that. The bill that passed for this grant was House Bill 143, was passed by Representative Noel in the 2018 general session. And what it does is it raised the cost of OHV registration dollars. And with that additional cost, through legislature, we have allocated $3.5 million annually. It's a quarterly grant, and with the current recommendations on this through our fourth quarter, we've only used about half of the funding, and that's if everything that's on our list gets recommended today. So just to talk a little bit further about some items, I'm just going to highlight a few things. As you guys can see in the packet, the items that are in green were recommended by our Off-Highway Vehicle Advisory Council, and then the items in kind of a light pinkish red were not recommended by our advisory council. And I just wanted to highlight some, and then we can get further into discussion on it if need be. So I wanted to highlight number 4. So this is the Beaver Mountain Street Trailhead. And the reason I'm highlighting this is because we've never come across this throughout the 2 years that FIG has been in place. So what it is there's actually a nonprofit who is purchasing a piece of land in Beaver, and what they're going to do is they're going to turn it into a trailhead. So what it does is that it allows access to the Beaver trailhead, and then it leads into the Paiute Trail. So with that, they requested $76,500. And then on another one, and oh, sorry, real quickly, sorry, let me go back. One little step back. So this quarter, we received 47 applications, and that's a major uptick. Last quarter, we also received 47 applications, and out of the 47 applications, 30 were recommended by our advisory council. So just filling you guys in on that. So the next one I wanted to talk about was number 26, and this is for the Trails crew. And ultimately what it is it's the Emory County, it's the Emory County Travel Bureau. And what they're doing is they're paying back, or they will be paying kind of their volunteers. So they have a trail committee and they want to pay a number of those members funding for all the work that they've done in the past and in the future as well. So just wanted to highlight that. And then also something else that's internal, but I found it to be very impressive, is because it was submitted by one of our OHV program interns. And so it's number 43. And she wrote this all by herself with very little help. Her name is Lexi, and I wanted to just highlight it because the name on the application obviously was not her name. It was her supervisor, but I wanted her to get recognition for it as well because she went above and beyond with this. I think it had 5 letters of support, and we only require a minimum of 2. So what it is it's purchasing incentive items for a new program in our division. And it's for the OHV Junior Ranger program. What it is it's going to kind of follow what federal, like national parks are doing, where you can be a ranger for the park, and kind of also what state parks does. We have our own little ranger program there. So what we're doing is we're doing something that are incorporating OHV side of things, and this was for the purchase of incentive items. So I just wanted to highlight those 3 items real quickly. I know that there is some former discussion as well as some additional changes that OHV program staff felt may be necessary. And for that, I would like to turn the time over to Chris Haller.
While Chris is coming up, I'll just make a note that on record that we did receive 3 public comments regarding the incentive grant recommendations, and we'll add them to the record.
Well,
Chris,
thank you,
good to
Chair.
have you
and
with us.
Good. It's always a pleasure to be here by all means, and probably want to circle back a little bit to let the board know we have a really good person that wrote some probably the best legislation piece of bill this session. But I want to go on record and just let the board know we had a person write the best resolution during this session, and that was the 50th anniversary resolution in the room. I won't mention who, but
I would say they're equally good. There's not a competition, but we can. When was it? Yeah. It was the best resolution.
Mine was shorter.
It was good.
That's quite a
So anyway, with that, moving on. So thank you for allowing me to discuss today and be in front of you. I want to give a lot of kudos. Rachel, this position was funded, and Rachel accepted that position in August of 2020, and she's literally hit the ground running. She's made a lot of great leaps and bounds and really projected this grant program forward. And I really tremendously rely on her, along with others that are involved in the off-highway vehicle community and our own division staff in addition to. So with that, I want to try to transfer over a little bit. So the board is going to hear something that they haven't heard probably except for one other time in 12 years. Staff disagrees with the recommendations provided by the advisory council. And here's why. Of those particular applications that were received, a couple of things is they met the requirements that's set forth in the applications. So those applications that were received met all the requirements. And in addition to that, they meet the leaps and bounds associated within the off-highway vehicle program grant. They were pretty much very similar projects that were awarded and approved in Q3 by this board. And so there's a lack of consistency, and I can't express that or why they did not recommend those. But those are under the promotional applications, which consist of a number, and you can go to actually in your board packet, page 72 there at the bottom. And those are the numbers that the board or that staff has recommended to be funded in addition to the other recommendations that have been provided. In addition to application number 13, which is from Iron County, they requested a motor vehicle. The advisory council did not recommend that one to be funded, but part of their application consisted of approximately $1,500 in materials and supplies to be on the ground, which we believe is vitally important to the success of the off-highway vehicle to educate those new enthusiasts that are visiting. And so staff is recommending that $1,500 be provided to Iron County to help facilitate that particular item. The other item is application number 28. This is for a Uintah County website. The council did not recommend that one to be funded. Staff felt after reviewing that application that the overall request, I believe going off memory, was right around a little more than $8,000. We believe that $5,000 should be earmarked for OHV information associated on that website between their jamborees, their mapping system, and other OHV related items. We believe that is a fair number to provide along those lines. Staff is also recommending holding application number 45. That is with the Bureau of Land Management, specifically the Price BLM Field Office. It is a request to purchase 72 concrete picnic tables. We're a little concerned because the application is unclear if those will be in motorized areas or non-motorized. And they also identify particular different campgrounds which have multiple use affiliated with those. Trying to contact the Price BLM Field Office for further clarification because we want our FIG emblem embedded in that concrete as those tables are being produced. So I don't know if that'll happen or not, but we're requesting that particular application be held until we get more information. I don't feel comfortable, nor have I ever been asked to help subsidize a non-motorized portion unless it's through RTP. So that's some of the items that I wanted to bring forward today. So with that, I know we received, my understanding, got an email on our way down, some public comments. And of those promotional applications, I want to remind those applications are submitted by small rural towns and communities that thrive on promotion of motorized use. Because of the onset of COVID and those items that have occurred historically, it's very difficult for these small communities to be able to rebound back. They don't have a national park at their doorstep, nor do they have a state park at their doorstep. And so they rely on OHV motorized use to help them sustain a consistent economic income into their communities and create small businesses and jobs. And to date, through our physical incentive grant, the program has put on over $2.6 million back on the ground to rural Utah. And I think that's vitally important because prior to, like Rachel alluded to, in 2018, the majority of that funding was being utilized as a general fund mechanism in the heavily populated counties of Utah. So with that, I open myself up to a lot of questions, I'm sure. So.
Okay, do we have questions from the board for Chris?
Can I speak?
Absolutely.
So I sat on this board, as I've told you before, the Off-Highway Advisory Council, and I enjoyed the time there. And I was blown away when they didn't recommend these 17 applications. Chris has said it as good as anybody can say it, but if you look at these small towns in these areas that are asking for this money, there is no other way that they can get this money. And that money should go to these cities and towns. I look at, Enterprise and Eureka and some of these smaller towns. I see Ray Golden sitting there, his small area. They're not going to get the money any other way. And that's what this FIG grant was produced for. So I just want to say that the staff is doing their job. The advisory council did not, and I'm I might be adversarial there, but I just think that they could have looked at this a little bit differently, and we should listen to the staff, because the staff, they're 24/7. You guys are on the ground, your boots are on the ground, you do the work, and I just want to put my support for what the staff recommends. That's it.
All right,
you,
this is Leisha. Can I talk for just a minute?
Absolutely.
I do have several projects in there for my county, and so I'll sustain from voting. But I also have two of the board members in my area, and so they both came in and we visited about some projects, especially these 360 advertising projects that are put on by At Your Leisure. And Natalie and I and Kevin and a few of us spoke on these projects at the last board meeting. Personally, it's not that I don't feel or even that those board members that are from my county that sit on the OHV advisory council or council members, it's not that we don't feel, and as a board member that's going to approve this, is we don't feel that those counties don't need that money or need that promotion. We're just not sure if that's the right promotion or the right company. So Kevin sent an email to us as a board stating that he's had some of these projects done and they haven't been fulfilled. I just think last time we gave $350,000 to At Your Leisure to come in and do these promotions. And then this time with the promotions and the mapping, it would be like over $400,000. I'm just not sure that that company has the time frame or the ability to be able to do that in a timely manner. And maybe that has nothing to do with this. And if it doesn't, I'm totally fine. Because I get that we need, those small communities need that promotion. They need to be able, coming from a community that doesn't have a national park, and we try to hang on to anything that's recreation and go for it, and any grant dollars that we can try to help to improve our economy, we try to do that. But when these applications come in and we review them, they all come in from the same company. So I'm not sure, is there other companies out there that they just don't know from in the past working with AYL on different projects? They come in, they meet with your mayors, they meet with your county commissioners, they sell them this product. And then 2, 3, 4 years later, we're, as the marketing department, we're begging for this stuff that we've already paid for and we never see. So I've brought this up over the last 3 months, kind of, that these are my concerns, that just, are we following back? Are we making sure that those projects are being done? They're being done in a timely manner, that they're not taking 2, 3, 4 years before those communities are seeing that marketing taking place and getting that economic benefit.
Yes, go ahead.
So I'll hopefully I'll be able to address that. So of the 33 different type of 360 trail projects that have been awarded, 21 of them have been completed. So let me share a little bit behind that, background information there. 8 are currently scheduled and 3 are already currently being reviewed today. So that gives you the timeline of where we're at. So to back up a little bit, Trail 360 falls back on Google. Why does this particular company utilize Google? It's free. Google Street View is free. The other mechanism to go with is it would be a $12,000 a month fee to use another server per trail. So there's a little bit of ROI information affiliated along those lines. And I also would like to express to the board, as I did to the advisory council, the applications are not with a particular company. A community or county has submitted those applications. Who they decide to hire is on them. It's not our role, I believe, as a program or as a state to judiciously indicate to that applicant, here's the one you're going to use by our choice, or else we're not going to approve it. So just might want to, I just wanted to offer up that background information.
So who manages the contract with those people who are delivering those services? And in the contract, is it saying that the project will be completed within a certain period of time, and specifically what the deliverables are?
I think, in all honesty, probably the person that could best answer that question is your fellow board member, Kevin Christensen, who's been a consumptive participant of this from the get-go. So I don't want to put you on the floor. Well,
I think you just did.
But I believe he could talk more to it than me, because the county, St. Pete County, has received a grant from us. So we have that agreement, but then it's up to St. Pete County to follow their purchasing guidelines, requirements, procurement, all of those items related to. And I think he would be better fit to address that than myself, because I don't want to talk.
So yeah, it's the applicant, it's the applicant's responsibility to then work with either, to fulfill the contract, to fulfill the grant, and to work with AYL or whatever other group they're working with. The concern I have is with the Google. These trails have been filmed, and they do a great job filming. The problem is that for whatever reason, they're not showing up on Google. We had trails done last July, so 10 months ago, and they're basically still not up. There's little fragments here and there. And now, you know, that I don't know, is that a problem with Google? Is it a problem with AYL that can't get them on Google? I don't know where the problem is, but it's not happening. And maybe it's a COVID thing. Maybe Google has been, you know, weird for the last year with employment problems. You know, we know how that's been. So I don't know where the lapse is, but for us to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to get these 360, and then if they don't show up, we wasted our money. And I know that they put the stuff on their own website, which is fine, but that's not where the value comes. The values comes when it's on Google.
Yeah.
So I would probably say, I would be okay with approving those 360 this time. But if that problem is not solved by next board meeting, I will not vote again for Trail 360. Because if Google is broke and turns out to be, you know, they can't do it for whatever reason, then I think we need to pull away from it. But it just does not make any sense to spend this kind of money if they will not show up on Google for whatever reason.
I follow up with just some of Kevin's points, just thinking through some of this. I think a big part of, and first off, thank you, Rachel. She spent about an hour on the phone with me going over the FIG grant and talking through the process and the legislation. And that was really helpful just to have that full background on the grant program. My thought process in thinking through this, just from hearing Leisha's and Kevin's comments and Chris's too, is at the end of the day, when we're awarding these grants, we want to provide a service and to showcase the parks and to showcase the amenities that are out there. And to showcase the options with OHV vehicles. And if it's not accessible to the public or to an audience, and we're not following through with that on that end, then that's a problem. And there's no ROI behind that.
Right.
And so I'm not trying to pull on another example within this grant program, but one, was the Uinta County website that showcases ATV and OHV. To me, that shows like a full product. It shows that they've worked with multiple partners in their community, with their county, with their tourism office, with potentially their chamber, expanded partnerships there. And so I guess in just looking through the full application, which I didn't see every individual application, everything that's all the questions that are answered, but maybe that's something in the future that we look to with these grants is just a little bit more of, is there a full thought process in how these will be executed to ensure that the marketing assets that's being created isn't just an asset that's now just sitting there and not being utilized, but that it's actually being used by the public and being accessed easily as well.
I think my concern as I read it and realized that the 360 is at your leisure, but also the other promotional applicant grants is at your leisure. So that's a huge chunk of this whole grant processing is to one vendor. And can they do all of that, the 360 plus all the promotional? We're talking about one entity, one county, one city that only meets with that person and they promise them that they sign a contract. But as a board, shouldn't we look at one vendor is doing all of this? Because they don't know that. A city doesn't know that. A county doesn't know that. But we know that this is all going to one vendor. Should we be concerned a little bit with that? So that's the question I raise.
Well, and I guess I would come back and answer, I don't think that's our program responsibility because our agreement goes to that county, city, or agency. If there's another vendor that provides that, that's up to that particular applicant to understand and follow through on that.
But they're only getting a pitch from one.
I
And I
understand.
think we have a fiscal responsibility to the total amount of the grant. That's all I'm saying, Chris. So
Yes. And
do we have a concern about that?
Well, if there's a,
That one vendor has the capability to deliver to all of these, and it's because that individual doesn't know that. They're only getting one pitch to them that will deliver this. But for us, our due diligence is the whole grant pot that by the legislative mandate is being appropriated appropriately through these grants, and it's the advisory committee for sure. But I'm just raising that. Seems to me like there's a little bit of a red flag here is all I'm saying.
What happens in the grant administration if 6 months goes by and they haven't fulfilled their obligations after the contract is done? And, you know, if some of this stuff materializes, some of these concerns, how's that reconciled?
So we, obviously, we have a process when an applicant supplies that application to us. We look at the time lapse. Usually we're saying a year to 2 years to complete the project. And so it's up to that individual project manager or sponsor to follow up. If they're not getting a product or service, that's on them. I don't think that it's the state's authority to step in and say, hey, you know, our authority is did you meet the requirements set forth as part of what the agreement is? Did you purchase the equipment? Have you turned in a video? Because we do have a snapshot of what was provided, of what's been already completed through promotional advertisement. We sent that to Amber. If the board wants to see that, I think she could pull it up and easily show what's already been completed to date. Out of the promotionals, the particular entities that we've done, we've already have seen 23 projects completed.
So these are reimbursement funds. So after the work is done,
Yeah, and so Corey, they asked for there's two methods that a project manager can pursue. They could pursue 75% of the funds up front as seed money to get the project completed, or they complete the project and then they just seek the full reimbursement after project completion. I can say through the last 18 months, because budgets are tight, small communities struggle, counties struggle. We see more of the city and the counties requesting 75% up front, where the federal agencies and other agencies are seeking a reimbursement after they've exhausted those resources. Does that answer the question?
Thank you.
Chris, maybe back to what Claudia and Kevin were bringing up, but if the program sees some kind of, well, they see a history or a pattern of cities and counties asking for something like Trail 360, could the program get all of them together and say, hey, you know, Uinta's looking for this, Garfield's looking for this. How about you guys get together and write a grant together? Is that something that the program could kind of sponsor or lead and then work with them to maybe go out to bid and get more interest instead of?
You bring up a great point, Scott. And one of the things I've always wanted to find value in is that those cities, counties work with their area associations of governments. So 5 county, Wasatch Front Regional Commission, 6 county, and they work through that local AOG office and then submit one and have that AOG office be the project manager of that. So that way they have a little bit more on the ground. They have some other exhaustive resources that they could utilize at that county AOG level.
Is that something that you and or Rachel could coordinate to say, not only just these organizations, but even statewide, there is this demand, and maybe some counties and cities don't even know about the idea.
Absolutely. And I also think moving forward, it may be wise that we seek an opportunity to create some type of promotional 360 video production or something like that through state purchasing. And then there's a statewide contract that maybe has multiple vendors on there. And then the individual entity could utilize that if they're a subsidiary of the state.
And then a follow-up to what Kevin asked, which is if a grant is given and the grantee receives it and only provides half of what they were contracted to do, who then is liable, or who goes back to that, to the entity that was supposed to perform the work to say, okay, you did half of it, you got paid for all of it. What kind of, I guess, resources do you have to go back and enforce or either take back part of that money because they didn't fulfill the entire contract?
It's stated in that agreement that the physical incentive agreement that we have, and it states in there that hey, they got to supply us, if it's a 2-year project, an annual report, or a 1 year, it's a 6-month. Give us an update. We want to know the status. And then it's also at the completion of the project, they show us what's been done. If the project has not been completed, which of to date, we have not had any that are not.
So the ones that Kevin's talking about where they're supposed to be on Google, are they there or?
They're completed, but they're just not showing up on Google.
They're very spotty, at least the ones that I did, they're like fragmented.
And,
so it's
and maybe
kinda-
my question isn't pointed or directed well enough. Was that part of the contract? Was that part of the agreement that they would be live on Google?
As far as I understand,
That would have been.
that was the only reason I did it. I don't care that. they're
Seems like a
putting it on their
reasonable
website.
expectation
Yeah.
that it provides the public service.
And then if that expectation isn't met, is that then part of the contract, and is it actually completed or not completed?
Well, we at that point, then we would go back to that project manager and have that discussion and say, hey, where are we at? What's the hiccup? Why didn't this occur? And if only 75% of the project is completed, and that's what we gave up front, then those additional funds that are on the table would not be obligated for the remainder portion of that project and would be kicked back into the restricted accounts.
So would it be beneficial or helpful for someone like Kevin to go back and look at the contract and say, is it stipulated that the end product includes this being posted live on Google?
Correct.
And then that way he can come back to you or work with you and or Rachel.
And by all means, and we've had this over the years too, where sometimes, and I'm sure most of you understand this, sometimes the way we write up agreements, not everyone likes the wording, but that's the template that we use as derived by utilizing our internal resources like our AG liaison. And so if they want to add something, then we say, you can write that up as an addendum, thank you. And then we include that as part of the agreement. But we have had those. And so if for example, in Kevin's case, not to put him on the floor, but he is on the floor. So just say, hey, St. Pete County says, look, we're entering in this agreement with this particular company. If we're not satisfied, then we want some assurities from the state that you'll also support us in these endeavors. And that's part of to me, that would be included in part of the agreement. From
So
our
just
standpoint.
another thought too is for the state to take some of this grant money and actually do the contract with like All Trails. And then these people that do all the taping and the photographing and that they use your contract with All Trails to upload it and then it's done and you're not waiting on a Google that's an unknown. So that puts them not in the position of having to do individually contracting with something like All Trails. But the state has it out there. And if you do this grant, there's a guarantee that it will at least be there, which is pretty good. Another pretty good resource, I think, for what they're asking. Just a thought.
Is there flexibility within the program to create a cafeteria program of sorts where resources are limited, I understand that, but to the point of putting the contract of that vendor, in this case at your leisure, would be a state vendor contract, the state would have vetted them, and then the vendor agreement would be directly with the state, and then you would be able to ensure that all of the things were followed through, especially where there are this many people buying into it.
So when we first initiated the grant process, we looked at the cafeteria. And at the time, we did not have the resource. The resource was me.
Right.
And that's no fault of anyone's. And so we have taken what we have currently and continue to morph and modify that. That is still something that is not off the table. We've done a lot of great work across the state, and we've also modified some of the process. We've removed a traditional or an annual grant, and we've just said, look, we're trying to get this money on the ground as quickly as we can. So we're just going 4 times a year. We've removed the cap. We may be exploring after this last year, and as we have an evaluation point, currently there is no match. We just say you got to provide a match. We may find that based upon the 100+ applications that we receive, we're going to start to require a 30% match. But I don't want to be that person that pigeonholes us into a particular item and then it's broken. So, and I'm trying to gather enough information. Please keep in mind too, is that it's 18 months and I probably take more of a very conservative approach about this. I've been very trying to ensure that the funding is utilized for OHV related projects. And then in addition to that is, well, what if we did this? Or what if we just did a cafeteria once a year and we reduce 4 grant cycles to maybe 3, and 1 is a cafeteria. So there's a lot of still, I believe, flexibility and ability to move forward. And maybe in 50 years, another 50 years, we'll get there. So yeah, but that's something that we've looked at. Rachel and I went up and met with Office of Tourism. I reviewed the cafeteria. There's a lot of merit with that. And there's also a lot of checks and balances with that. And we're also exploring some grant software that may help applicants and us. And I think we're starting to turn the page a little bit with how applications are written compared to when they first were received. So having this young lady on board has really helped the process. I don't think I answered the question. I probably just walked around it like I usually do.
No, that was good.
It seems to me like there's going to be in the future more requests like this for grants for this kind of a service. And I'm wondering if we could send an RFP out and find out what companies are out there that do this, that have the capabilities. Because I don't have any problem with one vendor. If there's a public procurement process and it's fair and equitable to everyone that, shows an interest, there's really consistency and power in one vendor doing all of them so that they'll look consistent. But I wonder if we can do a better job of identifying companies who actually do the deliverables, and we know that they have the capabilities to do more than 2 or 3. They can do 12 or 20 or 50.
Can I speak? I have a question for Chris.
Sure, Russ.
So from my view of this, you took on a big task this year on doing the 50 trails for the 50th year anniversary, and I think that's great. Is this not part of the problem why there's so much going on right now? I mean, this is added to all the, or am I wrong in that?
I think you're accurate to a degree, because one of the applications is with the Utah 4-Wheel Drive Association to do a specialized 50th promotional video just for 4-wheel drive. That is another aspect of the off-highway vehicle program that sometimes gets overlooked, and that's with the nonprofit group. But I come back a little bit and say I think the reason why you're seeing the last 2 quarters of such an influx of promotional requests, tourism season. We want to get this money out. They want to get the product delivered, because in some instances, making a tourism request for ATV riding in August or September and then airing it in December, that may have some merits. It may not have much validity, because we all know that and there's a lot more experts in this room. Sometimes that short window is missed. And so I think that's why we've seen some of that, and the word is out on the street. You look at what this board has looked at the first 2 quarters of this year. We were right around 30 or 40 applications for the first 2 quarters. Now we're over 80. I think we've been found. Paul must have put us out there somehow. I don't know, but we've been found. So
Well, I think from my world, that that I'm seeing so many new people come into the off highway community. You know, I'm seeing, I mean, I don't have anything to sell in my business right now because there's such a big demand. We're seeing that in recreation, in trailers, and anything outside. I think we have a small window right now. And again, we're going to put pressure on At Your Leisure, but we have a window to get these new people that are seeing and going and utilizing the state parks and the parts of the state of Utah. And it needs to get done now because they'll lose interest if they can't use these things like 360 and some of these things that you're offering. And if we stall, they might go in a different direction.
Comment. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Any other questions or comments?
Are you taking public comment?
Sure, absolutely. We can take a, yeah.
To say a couple of things in it, and it might help answer some of your questions. But my name's Ray Golden, and I'm from Tickaboo. Does everybody know where Tickaboo is? I know you do. I know Natalie does. But so we're real close to Bullfrog. We're about 10 miles north of Bullfrog in eastern Garfield County. So I represent, what I do there with Tickaboo Lodge offshore and the Hideout Post. We are one big company. We're the largest employer in eastern Garfield County, and I think the only one. But I think we rank like number 8 in the state of in the county of Garfield. We're like the 8th biggest employer. We have 80 some employees in our main season and about 30 some in the off season. So we have a nonprofit, Friends of Tickaboo, but we really represent North Lake Powell. We have the Hideout Post, like I said, which is San Juan County, which has great riding. We have awesome trails in eastern Garfield County and Wayne County. And in Kane County, Bullfrog, especially Glen Canyon this year, they've had more RVs and toy haulers and ATVs down there than I've ever seen. This is a really emerging market for us. So I came to Tickaboo, and y'all are already probably saying you're not from around here. I know that. I'm from Georgia. And I also, if I can, I want to say I served on a panel with Georgia's DNR. So I know the tremendous job that you all are doing, and your state parks, they all should be national parks. You have my wife and I travel the whole country, and your state parks are really incredible in comparison to everywhere else.
Thank you.
So kudos to you all. I think you're doing a fabulous job. But in our neck of the woods, you know, we are very limited in folks. They generally come down to the lake, and that's all they do. They come between Memorial Day and Labor Day. And when I got there in 2016, there was no traffic in Tickaboo between Labor Day and Memorial Day. Our off season was 0, except September and October had a little bit of leftover boating traffic. So I set out, that's why my wife and I came there to start to help the outdoor recreation business. I've been on every outdoor recreation TV show in the state of Utah. And there's 3 of them that are main ones. And I think you all know all 3 of them. One focuses on fishing, one focuses on hunting, fishing, and then one focuses on like more outdoor recreation magazine stuff. And we're talking about At Your Leisure. So, so I've been on all 3 shows, and I can tell you that with the off-road traffic, our volume always spikes when we're on the At Your Leisure show. And when we're on the other shows for fishing or stuff like that, and I've done off-road shows, off-road travel, ATV, UTV rides on those other 2 networks, on those other 2 shows. And we've seen a little bit of that off-road traffic increase. But with At Your Leisure, we've had far more traffic blow up. And I'll explain that to you in a second. But that is, in my opinion, as a vendor, that's who I would go with for my off-road traffic. Now, if I wanted to do a fishing show, I'd pick the fishing show, or hunting, fishing, or whatever, I'd pick them. But At Your Leisure, every time I've been on there, our traffic has been explosive. So this year, Lake Powell, as you all know, is down in water. And just to give you a little heads up about that, our offshore marina also transports boats, houseboats to the lake and back. We take them down there in the spring, we bring them back in the fall. And we can't do it anymore. As of Monday this week, we've stopped doing houseboats to the lake. We can't get them on. The boats that we have put on, they're probably not coming off this year. It'll probably be next year, and they're going to have to pay those rates down on the lake over the winter, whereas normally they're paying us a smaller fee to keep them dry stored. So
in the rental market business, just to throw this figure out, $250,000 a year is what we do renting boats. So far this year, we have zero. May is generally a $50,000 month. We have no boating traffic, very little, I should say. We have some boating traffic, but we have no boat rentals. And we have we have not a lot of people going down to the lake that we can see. Now, I'm a charter boat captain from Georgia and the Outer Banks of North Carolina. So I've been on the lake at this level. It's still beautiful. I don't see why people are pulling away from it. They should still go. It's a very beautiful lake at this level, but they're not. And I get that. So our goal then is, and it has been for the past couple of years, is to try to drive this off-road market, the ATV, UTV especially. And we've been fairly successful at it. So we applied this first quarter of this year for 2 grants, the 360 and the promotional episodes with AYL. And when were they awarded? Rachel, I don't remember the date. February the.
Oh, the past quarter?
Yes.
I think it was February 16th.
February 16th. So on March the 17th, which Glen Canyon also opened up their trails on February 16th, some of their trails, not all their trails, but the one going from Height to the Poison Springs trail system, they opened up. So immediately with AYL, we did a show up there that we filmed on March 17th, and it aired, I think, 10 days later. Our traffic is already up 300 to 400%, and that includes the boating traffic for the month of March and April, and we're already on pace to beat May of the year before. So last year for us, even though it was COVID, was a good year. It was a really good year. A lot of people wanted to get away, and they came to us. So we had a really good year last year, but we're up 300 to 400% from 19, and 2019 was our best year prior to that. That's significant for us, especially with this lake level being down and not getting that traffic. We're already beating our records from last year and the year before without that lake traffic because of the OHV market. That's huge. So to answer some of your questions, yeah, AYL's definitely the vendor I choose. And second off, they were there in less than a month to film that show. So they're Johnny on the spot with that, if they can be. And I don't know about their other contracts or their other places they've been. But I do know this too. This past weekend, I don't normally sit in our base camp office, the outfitter store, but I did to help somebody out, my wife and I and the assistant general manager. And it was all we could do from 8 o'clock in the morning until 1:30 when we were able to take a lunch to help that traffic come through. I was constantly talking to people about the trails and stuff like that. They're an older crowd and they're not really tech savvy with your iPhones and stuff like that to download the Venza maps and the Gaia maps. So we're helping them do all that, but they're asking us a lot about the trails, and we can show them some of those 360 trails so that they say like, yeah, I think I can handle that. Or, oh yeah, I definitely want to do that. So I find both of those products that are being offered very valuable. They're very valuable to us. And just to give you another little bit of information, 2 weeks ago, I led a group through the Poison Springs Network, which Garfield County is really promoting hard. And I saw other guided trips out there. I've been on the Poison Trail Network for 5 years. I've never seen anybody out there except for a Jeep here or there. But all of a sudden, there's other guided people, guided trips. So it's not just Tickaboo that it's helping Wayne County, Hanksville. I saw 2 guided trips from Hanksville. Another one was a really large group. I have no idea where they came from. But I know that it's helped that whole region, the whole North Lake Powell region. So it's not just like somebody had said, to help in these small towns. It's not just helping Tickaboo. I went into the San Rafael Swell a few weeks ago, and when I came back, I could not believe how much ATV traffic was out and about. And I stopped at stands in Hanksville, and I was like, man, you guys are crawling.
Thank you.
Machines.
Can we move on with the agenda?
Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to take up so much of your time.
No, thank you for your comments. I appreciate that, Ray, and
One quick question.
appreciate your interest in being here.
360 grant, did your 360 trails end up on Google then?
One of them has, and the other 2 are still in the process. And you can look at, I think it's Jacob's Chair, I think it is.
Okay, thank you.
But I'm sorry, did you ask me if they showed up on Google?
Yes, because that's what 360 loads to is Google.
Right, well, okay, so let me take that back. I know that on the outsiders.zone, I haven't really checked Google to see if they're popping up on that or not.
Okay.
Because I was always under the impression they went to outsiders.zone and then you could pull those to put them on other websites and stuff like that. I might not be as familiar with the Google part of it. Thank you.
Okay, moving on then. We need a motion on this, right? Do I hear a motion on the incentive grant recommendations?
Well, I'd like to start a different motion, just to, off the table. So there were 11 grants that the staff recommended that were the at your leisure grants for the promotion on KUTV, whatever, KTVX. And those seem to be very valuable, and they don't know why the advisory council didn't approve them. Even Mr. Steadman wasn't sure why. So let me make a motion to start us off that we approve those 11, which would be 8, 10, 14, 17, 18, 20, 21, 22, 33, 37, and 40 that were specific to at your leisure, but for promotion, and that we approve those. That's my motion.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in agreement with this motion, say aye.
Aye.
Or do we need to have some comments and some discussion before we,
I'll vote aye, yes.
okay,
Just wanted, can we have some discussion really quick? I
Yes.
just want to look at, do we need to look at the amount of funding that amounts to and how much is available?
I can talk on behalf of that real quickly. So we have currently, sorry. Okay, so currently, if we were to pass only the 30, we would have a remainder of, I think it's 1.6 left over. If we pass the 42 total, so that includes the 11, and then the 2 that, so it was the website, and then also the, not the truck part of it, but just the trail work part of it and the signage part of it. So $1,500. We would be using 2/3 of the money that's been allocated to us through the entire fiscal year. And this is the last quarter. So we would still have, I think we'd still have 1.25 million left over.
So if we start with the motion, sounds like we're just with these 11 is what's on the table.
Mhm.
That's covered, no problem.
Oh yeah, there's plenty
So we
left.
could start with that motion.
That's specific to those AWA.
in addition to the 30 that have already been approved by the advisory council, right?
I think the motion was just those 11.
Just the 11.
Just those 11, I think is what we heard.
That I called out that are 8, 10, 14, 17, 18, 20,
That's
21,
right.
22, 33, 34. Just those specific to that kind of a grant. That is my motion.
Okay, so we have a motion, and Russ, you seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
Thank you, Russ. Okay, it looks unanimous for 8, 10, 14, 17, 18, 20, 21, 22, 33, 37, and 40. Now, we need a motion for,
I'll also make a motion for number 13, which the staff recommended funding at 1,500, not the amount of the request.
Paul's saying that we need a roll call vote. We have to go online.
Mr. Chairman, the Attorney General's office has provided counsel in other meetings that we need to do a roll call if there is not unanimous. For instance, if someone's abstaining or if there's conflict. Because it's difficult to tell from here and also who's on.
Is the virtual nature.
okay, okay. Did we get a vote from Leisha, because everyone else voted in the affirmative on this? Is Leisha still on the call?
Yeah, I'm here. I'll vote for it.
Okay, so your vote was yes
Yeah.
in support of that motion? Okay, so we have a unanimous vote on that motion. So going to the second motion on the 1,500, number 13, we have a motion. Do we have a second on that?
I'll second that.
Okay, Corey, thank you. And all who can support that, let's start with you, Kevin, on that.
Yes.
And Claudia?
Yes.
Natalie?
Yes.
Brent?
Yes.
And Corey?
Yes.
And Alicia?
Yes.
and Russ.
Yes.
Okay. It's unanimous on that one as well. Thank you, everyone. Now we need a motion for
I'll also make another motion on number 28.
number 28.
That
Okay.
we, they had a request for, I think it was 8,570, but staff is recommending 2/3 that I think was
5,000.
5,000.
Mhm.
So I will make that motion
Go ahead, make your motion.
that we approve that for the 5,000 as recommended by staff.
Okay. Thank you for that motion. Do we have a second on number 28 for $5,000?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Natalie. And again, let's start with you, Kevin. Are you in
Yes.
support of that? Okay. Claudia,
Yes.
Natalie,
Yes.
and Brent,
Yes.
Yes.
and Leisha?
It's for my county, so I'm going to sustain from that vote.
Okay. And Russ?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. It's almost unanimous with Leisha's sustained vote on that.
Abstaining.
Abstain vote on that, yeah. Okay, now,
Leaves all the others.
yeah,
So I will make a motion.
okay,
That we approve
okay,
all of the recommended FIG grants that are highlighted in green. But it has
number 45 as well.
I guess, a comment that if all of the trails, oh, hang on, hang on. Okay, I recommend that we approve all of the recommended FIG grants highlighted in green, except number 45,
Yes,
which is under further review.
here we go.
With the comment that all of these Trail 360s need to be on Google, that problem needs to be worked out. Otherwise, I guess it's just a comment. Otherwise, I would not be in support of these in the future.
So that'd be a deliverable and a requirement of the
Yes.
scope of the work.
Yes, but they have to be on Google in time.
Meaning that someone needs to make sure that the contract includes that.
Yes, that it needs, yes, the
And-
contract has to include that as well as that it has to be delivered.
In a specific period of time, which should also be in the
Yeah,
contract.
the contract has usually has a date, so.
Okay. So we have a motion to approve all those in green except for 45 at this time, which is still being, what's the word? Reviewed.
Yeah. Just
Uh,
needs more clarification.
More clarification. So we have a motion. Do we have a second? That motion.
I'll second that.
Okay, Natalie. We have a second from Natalie. We'll start with Kevin
Yes.
and Claudia.
Yes.
Natalie,
Yes.
Brent,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Leisha,
Yes.
and Russ.
Yes.
All right, it's unanimous on that one. Thank you so much, everyone. Does that cover all the grants?
Yes.
Okay, that's awesome.
Oh,
How much more do we have to go?
ours should be,
I think that last time.
the
Yeah,
last
I-
two should be pretty quick.
Council and we have land and water grant.
Oh,
That's what I was referring to. I think it's gonna be pretty
So
quick.
we have a council appointment,
We have one more grant.
Access.
one more grant, 2 council appointments, and a land and water grant.
I think given the complexity of virtual, that we just move on if we can, if everyone's good with that. Everyone who's connected virtually, are you good with that as well? We'll just move on and complete. Okay, so let's move on to, is it the
access and education.
Access and Education Grant? Rachel?
Yeah, so real quickly, just an overview, and Chris may be able to explain a little further, but I know that we're pressed on time, so I'll explain. So what this is this funding comes from when people register their vehicles, it gives them an option if they would like to donate into this fund. So with this fund, we've come back. We haven't done this for a couple years, it's my understanding. So the total ask that we had available for people was $17,500. We only received one application, and for those, the applicant, they had to meet requirements. They had to be a nonprofit. It didn't matter if they were incorporated in Utah. They had to have at least one full-time employee, and access and education had to be in their mission statement. So we received one and they met all those requirements. Ultimately, what they intend to do is they intend to use the full funding that we had available to create 8 episodes, around 1 per month, and then later on, they're going to do other episodes on OHV encounters and OHV recreation. But the primary episodes will discuss dirt bikes, side-by-sides, full-size vehicles, and snowmobile safety. So it will be a podcast. They also intend to reach out to different people in the recreation side of business and discuss with them the pros and cons, and also a lot of safety. This grant virtually solely just discusses safety. It does not really discuss access. So $17,500, and the sponsor is Blue Ribbon Coalition.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Rachel. Are there any comments or questions about this grant? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we award $17,500 to the Blue Ribbon Coalition Incorporated, as has been explained by Rachel and outlined in our package.
Thank you, Corey. So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you, Russ. And we'll go person by person again for the vote count. Starting with you, Kevin.
Yes.
And Claudia.
Yes.
Natalie.
Yes.
Brent.
Yes.
And Corey.
Yes.
Leisha.
Yes.
And Russ.
Yes.
That's unanimous. So we'll move on to the next item. And that is the OHV Advisory Council
Want me doing both?
vacancies. Yep,
Do them both together?
that'd be great.
Okay, so what you have in front of you, have 2 recommendations. One is for the ATV safety vacated position on the advisory council. The OHV Advisory Council recommends Fred Christensen from Annabella, Utah, to serve in that capacity. And then the second vacancy on the council is the other at-large position, and the OHV Advisory Council, through our application process, recommends Jason Blakengale out of Vernal, Utah, to facilitate that vacant position.
Perfect. Everyone had a chance to review the recommendation profiles for these people, for these positions. Any comments or questions about these 2 recommendations?
Fred's awesome. I know Fred. He does a lot of work. He did a lot of work with our 6 County Association of Governments whenever we did a congressional ride. And he did all the education part of it. So he's very knowledgeable. So him I know. So for sure.
And I would just say about Jason, he also works for a local engineer firm here, helps with a lot of our mapping, trail maintenance, always helps with our ATV jamboree. He's a good guy.
Wonderful. Okay, well, I'll entertain a motion on this, on these recommendations.
I'm still learning.
Brent's mouth is full. So, Mr. Chairman, I'd recommend that we appoint Fred Christensen and Jason Blackenagle to serve as positions on the Off-Highway Vehicle Advisory Council.
I'll second.
Okay,
Claudia, I was going to second. I was going to show you.
I removed my second.
that motion was from Corey Cram, and the second was from Claudia.
Yeah, Claudia can have it.
Claudia just delegated the motion, to second of the motion to Brent.
I'll third it.
Okay. We'll go person by person again. Kevin and Claudia. Natalie,
Yes.
Brent,
Yes.
and Corey.
Yes.
Russ
Yes.
and Leisha.
Yes.
Okay, the voting's unanimous. Thank you, everyone. Next on our agenda is the Land and Water Conservation Fund application. Is Susan on the line with us?
I am.
Susan Zaccarizzi, the time
Yeah,
is
can you hear
yours.
me?
Yes, thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'll be fast as always. I'm the catcher-upper, right? I'm bringing you the Atlanta Water Grant from Provo City. They have acquired a large parcel kind of in the middle of Utah Lake. We're off on the west side of Provo. They're going to build a giant regional sports park. This is the first phase of it, and it's to develop a 52-acre site. And this grant, they're asking for $3 million from the feds, and they're going to match it with 11 and some change from the city. So that's quite an overmatch. And they're planning to build athletic fields. It's a big soccer complex, restrooms, walkways, playgrounds, up to 3 playgrounds. It'll depend on how this, as you all well know, with the economy, it all depends on how this prices out. This is just the initial phase. So we're also going to do access roads, parking areas, and different support facilities and amenities like a maintenance area, because this is so big, they need somewhere to store their mowers and etc. And I think it's a great project. This is already land and water encumbered. This is just the development of it. And I'd like to recommend moving forward. And one of the reasons this is coming to you so quickly is we're hoping to use lapsing funds. We will lapse a little over $1 million, about $1.4 million to $1.7 million, depending on how it masks out with the National Park Service. This grant will wipe that lapse out, so we won't lapse any money, and that's what we'd like to do. So if you have any questions, let me know.
Any questions from the board? Nice job explaining, and we also have the write-up, which was well written. We'll take a motion.
Were there any other applications, Susan?
I have there were 8 applications. I'm working through the others. We have more than enough money to fund all of them. I have to go do the site visits and go meet with some of the individuals on site. Some of them are kind of challenging, and they're going to take some work to massage them so that the National Park Service will accept them. So that's where they are. But you'll probably see them next time.
This is a big deal. This will be a great addition to Provo City. All right, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve Land and Water Conservation Fund grant recommendation.
Okay, Kevin. Do we have a second?
I'll second that one.
Okay, Brent, thank you. And we'll go person by person. Kevin
Yes.
and Claudia,
Yes.
Natalie,
Yes.
Brent,
Yes.
Corey,
Yes.
and Leisha,
Yes.
and Russ.
Yes.
All right, unanimous on the voting. Thank you, everyone.
Hey, thanks.
I'm not quite sure what the regional complex tour is all about and what the action is.
Overland, there's no action really. Overland's all this tell you about facilities.
We can adjourn into work.
Okay, all right. So can that be done later?
Yes.
Is that going to happen today?
Be with this group.
After lunch,
Okay, so that's an after lunch thing. Well, is there any other business that we need to discuss as a board?
Can we just note our next meeting date?
August 20th.
Perfect.
Well, this has been a great meeting and we've accomplished a lot. Thank you, everyone, for your participation. Thanks to all of those who connected virtually. And hopefully we can meet with you live in August on the 20th. I'll take a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Thank you, Corey. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right. And I don't think we need to go person to person on this. I think everyone's in agreement on this one. So thank you, everyone. We'll see you in August.
So we have lunch in the break room around. There are tables over there if you would rather, or we can bring everything back. However, the drinks are in here.
It
So
might be easier to bring it back than you can.
You're good.
Hey, thank you, Rachel. Thank you,
Yeah.
Chris.
Yes.
Appreciate it. That's